Sarah didn't want to deny Daisy the truth of the circumstance they were currently in and thought about what would happen to the company in case Roman wasn't able to get the money on time and they lost the legal battle against the Millers. She then sighed and looked at Daisy, saying, "It'll be a dire situation. If we lose, then tens of thousands of employees will lose their jobs, Spencer's will crumble, and the boss will lose everything. It's a fate worse than prison, and I, who've worked hard to get where I am today, will have to start over from scratch. I don't even want to think about it." Sarah suddenly noticed Daisy's face ashen from hearing what she had said and thought, "Come on, why are you scaring the poor girl like this? If the boss finds out that you troubled her so much, he'll have your head." She quickly put on a reassuring smile and looked at Daisy. "There is no need to worry about it, though. It's not as bad as I made it out to be. Our boss is incredibly smart, and he'll definitely win this thing over Adam. You've got nothing to worry about." No matter how much Sarah tried to convince Daisy, her mind still remained fixated on what she had said earlier. This was the entire situation then. Beyond the financial struggles, a showdown with Adam loomed over their heads. It explained why Roman returned home every day all exhausted and weary. Daisy sat in a corner, silently concerned, contemplating how to support him. After some time, Roman swung the door open and entered the hallway. When he saw Daisy sitting there, a smile adorned his face as he asked, "Why didn't you tell me when you got here?" Daisy shook herself out of the daze and approached him with a grin. "I wanted it to be a surprise." "Well, it's quite the surprise." Roman wrapped his arm around her waist, leaned in, and kissed her. "I like it very much." He led her into the office, closed the door, and hugged her tightly as if he was drawing strength from her. After a while, he took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm so relieved to see you here." Daisy, in her heart, felt both sorrow and sweetness when she heard him say that. For a moment, no words escaped her, so she simply nestled in his arms. The two clung to each other in silence. Roman released her and said with regret, lacing his tone, "I have to go. I've got a meeting at noon. Can't have lunch with you either. I've asked Sarah to order you a good meal, though." "Don't worry about me," Daisy reluctantly said as she watched him retrieve his coat from the shelf. "I'll head back after lunch. With all the recent company commotion, Sarah might not have much time to keep you company. It's better if you go home." Roman checked the time, rushing to the door, and suddenly turned back, swiftly reaching for Daisy's neck. He kissed her deeply and winked before heading out. The way that man's adoring gaze lingered on her was undeniably charming. Daisy found herself in a brief daze before breaking into a smile. Sarah entered the cabin and observed Daisy's unusual behavior. "Daisy, why are you smiling on your own? Are you hungry? Let's go grab a bite," Daisy agreed. "Sure, what are you in the mood for?" "Definitely craving something delicious," Sarah replied with a grin. "Besides, you're in charge of the card, so let's indulge ourselves." Daisy remained puzzled and said, "Sure, you decide the place. I am good with anything." Sarah held her hand, led her outside affectionately, and remarked, "In the past, when I wanted a lavish meal, I used to rely on Nina. But when Nina left, I thought I lost that privilege. Turns out, it's even better now." Daisy smiled and said, "Sarah, you can have whatever you want. After all, I'm in charge of swiping the card." Sarah instructed the driver to take them to a high-end restaurant. She and Nina had dined there once before and were thoroughly impressed by the delectable charcoal-grilled American beef short ribs, French foie gras, and luscious tiramisu. All the dishes were her favorites. These past days had been filled with so much tension and gloom that it was time to relax and enjoy a lavish meal. With the thought of scrumptious food, Sarah hummed a cheerful tune in her heart as she entered the restaurant with Daisy and made her way to the table. However, the cheerful tune in her throat abruptly halted mid-song. Less than 3 meters away, she saw Adam and Tony seated at a nearby table. The enemy that they had been fighting was in close proximity. Sarah demonstrated exceptional composure as she faced the situation. She didn't retreat, but instead advanced courageously, meeting the enemy's gaze with neither arrogance nor humility. Sarah possessed remarkable self-control. Even if she seethed with loathing, her countenance remained devoid of any hint of it. But Daisy, on the other hand, was different. She wasn't as mature as Sarah, especially when it came to Roman. She wasn't happy about any of Adam's recent acts. It was one thing to be company rivals, but messing one-on-one with Roman was out of the question. She fixed Adam with a gaze that held a complex blend of hatred and anticipation. Adam, bewildered by her intense stare, whispered to Tony, "Why is she looking at me like that? I haven't killed her puppy now, have I? But you are trying your best to kill her fiancé's family company.
The Spencer family's centuries-old legacy is on the brink of destruction because of you. Who wouldn't give you a glare? Fiancé? Can you even say that?" Adam sneered. "Does the Spencer family even acknowledge their relationship?"
Tony brushed off his comment and rose to welcome Daisy. "What a coincidence to see you two here. Why don't you guys join us for lunch?" Daisy glanced at him, her tone light. "I don't see a reason not to." "Come on, Sarah, let's keep them company for lunch." Tony wasted no time and signaled for the waiters to add chairs before Sarah could even respond. Sarah took hold of Daisy's arm, ready to move forward. "We're not in a position to dine together." Tony halted her with a friendly smile. "I know both the companies are having their issues, but we can still enjoy a meal together, right? I mean, John and I are still on good terms. I don't see why we can't do the same." "We just want to be on our own," Sarah asserted firmly, holding her head high. Daisy tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Let's dine with them. It won't be a big deal. Trust me." Sarah's commanding demeanor momentarily wavered, and she looked at Daisy in astonishment. "You want to eat with them? If the boss finds out, it'll be a mess." "If you don't tell him, he won't find out," Daisy reassured Sarah, pulling her into a seat. Sarah found herself unable to fathom the young girl's motives on this rare occasion, so she decided to save face and joined them with a cold snort. Adam couldn't fathom Tony's motives for inviting Sarah and Daisy to join them either, but he brushed it off and warmly greeted the two beautiful ladies. Sarah, understanding the need for civility, managed a smile to amuse him while Daisy fixed him with an intense stare using her big eyes. Even though Adam had thick skin, he couldn't withstand the piercing gaze of the determined girl. He instinctively flinched but quickly regained his composure. Raised with privilege and accustomed to exerting his influence, he was not used to such a thing. He returned her gaze with a stern expression and questioned, "Why are you glaring at me?" Daisy locked eyes with Adam and spoke slowly. "You are a bad person, and I am trying to think of a reason that makes you so." Tony smiled at her bluntness, and Sarah also wore a smile as she observed Adam, as though she was enjoying a good show. Adam was taken aback at first, but then he found it amusing. "Why am I a bad person? You're fighting with Roman, you're bullying him, Daisy accused him." "Daisy, you don't understand. This is a matter between men," Adam explained patiently. "I'm a businessman. It's normal for businessmen to compete and find opportunities to benefit from. Survival of the fittest is the law of the business world. On the other hand, if Roman is better than me, he might overcome my challenge. Why do you want to take from others? Is it really right to take what belongs to someone else? How can you feel good about it? Didn't your mother teach you? You shouldn't bully or steal from others," Daisy asserted. Daisy spoke earnestly, while Tony and Sarah couldn't help but hide their smiles. Adam's face, on the other hand, showed a mix of emotions. He wanted to lash out, but being the president of the Miller Group, he had to be mindful of his image. It was vexing to be lectured by a young girl. Thankfully, a temporary silence settled in as the waiter served the food. Once the waiter departed, Adam broke the silence. "Daisy, it's not your place to judge whether I'm a bad person, and my upbringing isn't something you should make unfounded comments about.
You owe me an apology.
Tony turned to him with a surprised expression. It seemed the situation had taken an unexpected turn, with President Miller engaging in a debate with a girl. Daisy remained serious as she said, "You did something wrong. Why should I apologize? You should say sorry to Roman and make amends with him. Isn't it better for everyone to be at peace? Besides, the Spencers are in trouble now and you should help them. That way, when you're in a bind, they'll support you. If everyone focused on helping rather than harming, wouldn't the world be a better place? Even if you've made mistakes, as long as you correct them, you can transform from being a bad person to a good one. Are you willing to do so?" Daisy, who wasn't known for her verbosity, had just spoken a lot in one go. While it might have sounded a bit unusual, upon careful consideration, it made sense. The three onlookers had varied reactions. Sarah was surprised, Tony was approving, and Adam was left somewhat bewildered. He was truly perplexed. In his world, words were typically full of twists and turns, a blend of truth and falsehood, veiled intentions, and concealed hostilities. He hadn't encountered such straightforward and candid words in a long time.
You think that bad people never find peace? Adam inquired. Indeed, bad people are always haunted by the wicked deeds they've committed and the pain they've caused others, so they never know peace. They won't find happiness in life. And after death, they may end up in hell, Daisy responded firmly. Tony interjected, "What do we do now about that, Adam?" Sarah discreetly kicked him under the table. Tony yelped in pain and shot her a questioning look. "What's the matter with you?" Sarah cut him off. "Focus on your meal. You talk too much." She winked subtly, and Tony was quick to catch on and decided to stay quiet. Adam had done some research on Daisy and knew her background. He had once felt sorry for the girl, but looking at her now, he sensed that she had a change. Her eyes held a new sense of determination. There was an aura about her that commanded respect. Adam lowered his gaze and expertly cut a piece of steak on Daisy's plate. The table fell silent for a while, with only the sounds of knives and forks against plates breaking the quiet. It was Daisy who broke the silence. "What are you doing?" Adam glanced at her and in a swift motion placed her plate back in front of her, cutting the steak for her. Tony raised an eyebrow, exchanged looks with Sarah, and chuckled. "Daisy, you're quite the distinguished guest. It's not every day you see President Miller personally cutting someone's steak. This is a first." Daisy smiled and said to Adam, "See, helping others can bring happiness. I believe you can change for the better." Adam's precise steak cutting came to an abrupt halt. He raised his eyes, two cold glints flashing within. The young girl didn't flinch, showing neither fear nor timidity. Instead, she furrowed her brow. "See, you're being unfriendly again. Do you want to be remembered as a bad person?" Adam sat in the restaurant, staring at the food and going over what Daisy had said to him. He then sighed, thinking if Daisy was some kind of divine emissary sent to reform him. Why did every encounter with this girl feel like a punch to his gut? He set down his knife and fork, gently wiped his mouth with a napkin, and gracefully rose from his seat. "I'm finished eating. You all enjoy your meal." He cast a sidelong glance at Tony, who remained composed, and said, "I haven't finished eating. Why don't you head out first?" Daisy and Sarah, of course, had no intention of holding Adam back, so President Miller left the place with a forlorn expression. As soon as Adam departed, Sarah raised an eyebrow and started questioning Tony. "What's going on in your boss's mind? Why does he keep targeting the Spencer family? Is he bent on their destruction? Why is he so ruthless?" Tony felt a bit overwhelmed by her barrage of questions. "Miss Sarah, you should direct these questions to our boss. If you don't ask him now, you'll have plenty of questions when he's gone," Sarah scoffed. "If I were to ask you, would you actually tell the truth?" "As you wish. Can I answer now?" Tony asked. Sarah stared at him. "You don't want to lie?" Tony smiled ingratiatingly. Of course not. If Secretary Sarah asks, how could I not tell the truth? Then spill it, but think carefully before you answer. Don't try to deceive me, Sarah cautioned. With a sigh, Tony confessed, all right, I'll be honest. Adam intends to eliminate the entire Spencer family. You should be aware of the current situation and make your plans as soon as possible. That man has some nerve, Sarah exclaimed in frustration, slapping the table and drawing the attention of nearby diners. Tony quickly consoled Sarah in a hushed voice. Don't be angry. Just pretend I didn't say anything. You don't need to worry. When the Spencer family falls, come work for the Miller Corp as my secretary. Even if you will be just the assistant of the general manager, the salary and benefits will definitely be better than what you have now, okay? What the hell are you even saying? Sarah was livid when she heard his absurd offer. She reached out to give him a playful slap, but Daisy intervened, saying, Sarah, let it go. If you have something to say it without resorting to physical actions. Listen to what he said. He's gotten me all worked up, Sarah grumbled, glaring at Tony. Daisy inquired, Tony, will the Spencer Corporation truly collapse? Tony nodded. The most conservative estimate is that we're more than 90% sure of it. I don't want to see Roman's family go down, to be honest. Healthy competition is good for social development. However, I can't control the capital market. Adam is the one who can tip the balance. Aled's withdrawal of funds has put the Spencer family in a precarious position, and Adam's interference in it is like a wrecking ball. I doubt the Spencer family can withstand it for long. Sarah listened to him and said, Adam's ambitions are grand. He possesses an industry like the Millers and still desires to overtake our company. Is he not afraid of overexerting himself? Tony sighed. I asked him about this, actually. This is what Adam said. Clearing his throat, Tony mimicked Adam. Why do I want the Spencer family? Roman holds it dear, but I have no attachment to it. It's just a matter of breaking it apart, restructuring it, and selling it for a good profit. Sarah sighed, her appetite waning after hearing Tony's account. She idly nibbled on her veal steak. Seeing her lack of enthusiasm, Tony leaned closer and assured her, Don't worry, your future is safe with me. As long as I, Tony, have food to eat, I'll never let you go hungry. You better shut your trap right now, Sarah shot back, then turned her gaze toward Daisy. The girl was eating quietly, but her concern was evident on her face. Sarah whispered to Tony, You see how much you scared her. Daisy, don't worry. Your future is also secure with me, Tony playfully teased, but he was nudged aside by Sarah, who was ready to scold him. Daisy raised her head, maintaining a calm demeanor. The Spencer family won't collapse. Roman will definitely ensure it doesn't. Sarah won't lose her job. No one will lose their job. I have faith in Roman's abilities. Her words carried an undeniable assurance, a stark contrast to her usual timid disposition. Sarah was moved for a moment and gently placed her hand on the table, saying, Yes, the Spencer family won't fall. I have faith in the boss's abilities, too. Tony looked at the two of them and broke into a smile. Roman is fortunate to have such a dedicated employee and a girlfriend like you. Sarah also chuckled and said, If you're a good person, you receive plenty of support. I know that the outcome is uncertain, but Tony, you better not assist the wrongdoer. No, Adam was concerned I might spill the beans, so he kept me out of the loop entirely. I also prefer to stay out of controversial matters. I didn't get involved in this one at all, Tony explained. Then, with a mixture of seriousness and humor, he added, Sarah, no matter what, I'll never go against your interest. Sarah laughed and quipped, Tony, you are such a tease. She pushed her empty plate aside and grabbed a small spoon to savor some tiramisu. This meal is on you, then. Daisy cast a glance at Sarah, then at Tony, and suddenly commented, You know, you two actually make a good pair.
Sarah and Tony both paused for a moment, then chuckled and shook their heads, nearly saying in unison, "Not a chance." They all burst into a laugh as they carried on with their lunch. Late at night, Daisy's eyes fluttered open as she momentarily found herself in a fog, vividly recalling Roman's return. Though slumber had embraced her when he'd arrived, she felt the door creak open, heard his footsteps to the bathroom, and felt him slip into bed. Could it all be a dream? In the corner, a soft blue nightlight cast a dim glow, lending an air of solitude to the room. Quiet as a cat, Daisy slipped out of her bed and padded over to the balcony where Roman stood. The tall figure loomed by the window, his hair tousled, giving him a charmingly disheveled look. A red ember glowed between his fingers like a radiant ruby. The faint moonlight bathed him, reflecting his silhouette as if it were carved from the night. Daisy wrapped her arms around him from behind. Roman jumped slightly, quickly extinguishing his cigarette and turning to face her. "Why are you awake?" he inquired. Daisy's voice felt like a secret murmured in the night as she said, "You weren't there with me?" The man enveloped her in his embrace, his voice tender as he said, "I'm right here. How could I not be?" "It's chilly out here. Let's go inside." Daisy nestled in his arms, her warm breath mingling with his thin pajamas, creating an itch of warmth. Roman's hand traced soothing circles on her back, his voice a gentle murmur. "What's troubling you? Can't you sleep?" "Roman," Daisy began, and then hesitated, as if on the brink of speaking. Roman leaned down and placed a tender kiss on her forehead, humming softly. "What's on your mind?" "The company," the girl finally gathered the courage to ask. "Is it going to crumble?" "Absolutely not," Roman reassured her, his voice filled with conviction. "With you by my side, how could the Spencer family fall?" Daisy looked at him and said, "But it's so tough now, isn't it?" Roman fell into a contemplative silence, then replied, "Yes, it's challenging. But it doesn't matter, Daisy. When you face difficulties, you tackle them head on. Even though it's tough, everything will pass." Daisy said, "Tony mentioned that Adam is confident he'll win." Roman raised his head and distanced himself slightly from her, asking, "When did you meet Tony?" Daisy replied, "Sarah and I ran into Adam and him during lunch today." She quickly explained upon noticing the unease in his expression. After hearing that, Roman's countenance softened and he offered a slight smile. "What did you guys talk about?" Daisy responded, her face reflecting confusion. "I was just trying to reason with him. He's not a reasonable person and he's most fearful of others attempting to reason with him," Roman explained. Daisy added, "That's because he feels guilty." With a gentle gesture, he pulled back the still warm quilt and set her down on it before joining her in bed. Daisy willingly nestled into his embrace, softly tracing his pajamas with her fingers. Roman caught her hand gently, saying, "Stop thinking about it and go to sleep." With a hint of shyness, Daisy raised her head slightly and planted a gentle kiss on his neck. Initiating intimacy like this was a rarity for her, so her actions carried a bashful air. She merely rested her lips against Roman's warm neck, scarcely daring to move. Roman let out a sigh and gave her back a gentle pat. His voice, laced with drowsiness, was low and muffled as he said, "I think we should go to sleep now." Daisy felt a twinge of disappointment. It was a rare moment of initiative from her. Since their return from Hawaii, he hadn't touched her, and that was a clear sign that things were quite serious. Roman's breathing grew heavier, accompanied by a light snore. He had drifted into slumber, but Daisy couldn't find sleep easily. She nestled her face against his chest, quietly savoring the rhythm of his heartbeat. That sound, like a soothing lullaby, eventually carried her into the embrace of sleep. Upon waking up in the morning, Roman's customary absence greeted her. Daisy rolled over and continued her slumber, clutching Roman's pillow close. His lingering scent on the pillow made it feel as though he was right there with her. After a brief nap, she arose and drew the curtains. The sky outside remained gloomy, heavy gray clouds seeming ready to release their burden at any moment. It was odd. Spring had begun some time ago, yet the weather refused to improve. The perpetual raindrops tapping on the windows had become quite bothersome. Daisy completed her breakfast, fixed herself a steaming cup of tea, and stood by the window in a contemplative daze, cradling her tea. Staring out through the rain-kissed window, the world beyond appeared hazy and distorted. The usual distant view was obscured, revealing only nearby buildings and the traffic below. Everything farther away was enveloped in a muted gray. On a day like this, a sense of melancholy seemed to linger in the air. Daisy had initially considered painting, but her muse remained elusive. Instead, she found herself fixated on the misty rain. Having sipped more than half of her tea, she contemplated getting another cup when the doorbell rang. Daisy jumped slightly since visitors were a rarity in her solitude. She swung open the door and froze in place immediately. Victoria stood before her, offering a faint smile as she said, "Daisy, it's been a while. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. I just wanted to talk to you in private." Daisy was in a state of panic before she snapped back to reality. Since she had become involved with Roman, her greatest fear had always been encountering Victoria and George. She carried the weight of guilt and silently wished that they would never cross paths again. But as her luck would have it, Victoria came to meet her on her own. Seeing Daisy frozen at the doorway and looking at her without uttering a word, Victoria decided to speak up as she said, "Can I step inside?" Overwhelmed and flustered by Victoria's sudden presence, Daisy broke from her daze and stammered as she said, "Please, madam, come in." Victoria moved in with an air of elegance and grace. She wore a friendly smile, but on the inside, she couldn't help but sigh at the nervous wreck that Daisy had become on seeing her. How could such a timid girl be the Spencer family's daughter-in-law? Daisy ushered Victoria to the living room and hurried to the kitchen to prepare a cup of tea. She brought the tea to the living room where Victoria was and placed it gently in front of her on the table. Then she lowered her head, trying her best not to look nervous or fidgety. Victoria looked at the helpless girl with a kind demeanor and said, "Please, have a seat. I have something to discuss with you." They both took a seat on the couch when Victoria began, "Daisy, don't be afraid. I'm not here to scold you. It's just that recently Roman has been facing some serious trouble with the company. The Spencer family is in dire straits, and I've come to you as a last resort." Daisy was so frightened to hear her say that, she waved her hands, saying, "No, madam, I'll do whatever you ask. You have every right to be angry with me. I won't dwell on the past." Victoria removed her scarf and placed it on the sofa, seeming to relax a bit. "Frankly, neither his father nor I approved of your relationship with Roman. He begged us to allow him to marry you, but it was out of the question. You should understand why that is. Joining the Spencer family comes with certain expectations. We've upheld a tradition of marrying into well-known families for a century. While it may sound old-fashioned, we believe that unions with unsuitable backgrounds are not blessed within the family. I hope you can grasp this." "I do understand," Daisy replied softly, her voice filled with emotion. "Being with Roman is a blessing for me. I know that I may not be worthy of him, and I've even tried to leave him, but—" Afraid that she might burst into tears, she bit her lip and dared not continue. Victoria sighed and said, "I know you're a good person, but Roman doesn't heed us on many matters. That's why I'm here today. As long as you don't marry him, everything will be fine." She continued, "But lately, as you might be aware, the family is in crisis. It's a precarious situation. All shareholders have been summoned. His father's health is deteriorating, and he's bedridden from anxiety. There's only one person who can save the Spencer family now, and that's Iris. The Anderson family has offered help on the condition that Roman marries Iris." Daisy kept her head lowered and remained silent, her lips still bitten tightly. Victoria's words were crystal clear. While our family has a substantial business, an overly massive enterprise can become a liability. Without external assistance this time, the family may truly crumble. If that were to happen, Roman would be the one responsible for the family's downfall.
Daisy, you might not fully grasp the significance of inheritance. As the head of each generation of the Spencer family, there's a duty and responsibility to carry on the ancestral lineage. This legacy has been passed down through the ages. His father made every effort to support the family and pass the torch smoothly to Roman. Since then, Roman has taken the reins and the family has flourished. Everyone acknowledges his superiority, recognizing his undeniable capability. Do you truly wish for him to be branded a failure all because of you?
Daisy shook her head firmly. She would never let Roman be seen as a failure forever. Outside, the rain grew louder, pelting the window panes. This chill drained her warmth, and her entire body gradually grew cold. Daisy felt as though she were overwhelmed by an unrelenting cold. It became hard for Daisy to even breathe, but Victoria's words resounded in her ears, every word etched in her mind. When Daisy saw Victoria at her doorstep, a sense of foreboding had washed over her, but she never expected Victoria to implore her to leave Roman. The shocking revelation that Spencer's future was tied to her left her speechless. Victoria picked up her tea, her voice gentle but laden with meaning as she said, "Daisy, are you able to comprehend what I'm saying?" Daisy's voice was laced with bitterness as she responded, "Madam, I do understand the gravity of the situation." From her bag, Victoria retrieved a check and placed it before Daisy, saying, "I know you may not desire this money, but you've earned it. You can save Roman, the Spencer family, and our entire clan. If you refuse it, we'll be truly sorry. While it's not a fortune, it's enough to ensure your comfort for the rest of your days." Roman had placed the heaviest chains on her heart with his profound love, making her resolve to never flee again. But the cruel reality struck her like a blow to the head, so sudden that it left her reeling. Every step she took felt like a choice between destruction. Forward or backward, it didn't matter. Both paths seemed equally wrong and dreadful. Daisy was a straightforward person, but faced with this dilemma, she utterly lost. Or maybe not, because the answer was crystal clear. She had to leave Roman and let him marry Iris if she wanted him to keep his company. There were no two ways about it. Her lips trembled as if she felt lacked the strength to speak, her voice barely a whisper. "If I leave, he'll come after me?" "I understand," Victoria sighed. "So, this time I need you to find a way to make him stop coming after you. Only by halting his pursuit will he agree to marry Iris. Daisy, only you can do this. Please, for Roman, for our family, you must do this." Before Victoria could finish, the front door burst open with a resounding crash and then swung back. Roman, still in his coat, entered the living room with a stern expression and asked, "Mom, what's going on? What are you even doing here?" Victoria's last hint of guilt dissipated as she coldly met her son's aggression. She knew that they were currently on rocky terms, but that doesn't mean she would tolerate him being disrespectful to her. Like that, she matched his cold glare and said, "Is this how you address your mother?" Roman had been strategizing for a confrontation with Adam in the financial department when the call came in informing him about Victoria's sudden visit to his apartment. He was infuriated at the news and his temples throbbed with anger. He couldn't fathom his parents' intentions. Their impatience had created an unnecessary burden. At a crucial moment in the battle when the two sides were deadlocked, his departure from work risked leaving his employees unable to discern Adam's intentions, potentially leading to defeat. However, he couldn't help himself. So he hurried back, seething with anger, and wore a scowl the moment he entered the house. After hearing his mother, Roman gradually regained his composure. He softened his voice and said, "Mother, just talk to me if you have any concerns regarding the company or our family. She doesn't comprehend our affairs, so discussing it with her is futile. Why are you even marrying her if you know she doesn't understand anything about our lives? Should our family accept a daughter-in-law who's clueless about our affairs?" Victoria challenged him. Roman tried to remain calm after hearing Victoria's rant and declared, "I don't need her to understand everything. I only know that I love her and I want to marry her." "That is so outrageous." Victoria paled with anger when she heard her son's declaration. "Roman, let me be honest with you. Your father and I disapprove of this union, and so will the board of directors unless you, the president of the Spencer Group, decide to step down from your position. I don't care if I have to step down. I'll still marry her." Roman met Victoria's gaze without flinching. "You are being stubborn?" Victoria pointed at him, then suddenly slumped back on the sofa, pressing a hand to her forehead as if she were in extreme discomfort. Her son's disloyalty struck Victoria to her core. The treacherous words he uttered were deeply unsettling. His casual mention of quitting everything for the sake of a mere maid was infuriating to her. Daisy rushed over to help Victoria, concern in her eyes. "Madam, are you all right? I don't think you look very well. Should we go to the hospital?" "I'm fine." Victoria slowly steadied her breathing. "My blood pressure's just a bit high, all because of this brat." Roman remained still, instructing Daisy, "Daisy, go back to your room. I need to talk to my mother alone." Daisy cast a brief glance at Victoria, who caught her hand, saying, "You don't need to leave. There's nothing you can't hear." She looked at Roman. "Say what you want to say in front of her." Roman approached his mother slowly, exhaling in resignation. "Mom, why do you have to push me like this? Can't you consider my happiness? It's precisely for the sake of your happiness that I can't support your marriage." Victoria sighed as well. "Roman, there are countless miserable marriages born of mismatched families. Why must you follow their path? Where is this path leading you? I know you love Daisy. Your father and I have granted you the utmost freedom. Anything is acceptable as long as you don't marry. What more do you want from us? Must you make us the laughingstock of others, or does the family have to face complete ruin for you to be content?" Victoria looked at Daisy and then turned to Roman again before continuing. "Frank personally contacted your father. If you agree to marry Iris, Andersons will help us overcome this mess. You and Iris already share a friendship, so marrying her won't be such a miserable thing to you." Roman sneered. "How can they help me? Does Mr. Anderson have more wealth than the Millers? You believe everything they say, but why don't you believe in your own son? The Anderson family may not be as wealthy as the Millers, but don't forget that Frank is the second largest shareholder in Millers," Victoria explained. "He said that if you agree to marry, he can use those shares as Iris's wedding gift. What more can they do for you?" Roman shouted at this blasphemy that came out of his mother's mouth. "The Anderson family is willing to spend a fortune to force me into submission. Why can't you see it? Firstly, they value you, and secondly, they cherish the long-standing friendship between our families," Victoria emphasized. "What if I refuse?" Roman pulled Daisy over to sit beside him, holding her hand tightly. Victoria's eyes blazed, but she had to endure. "You have no reason to refuse this. Daisy is a sensible girl, and she should understand what's more important." Roman immediately turned to Daisy, his gaze intense. "What did you promise her?" Daisy trembled under his fierce gaze and shook her head. Roman's expression softened slightly, and he spoke in a hushed tone. "Don't entertain any other thoughts. Do you understand?" The girl nodded quickly. With a more composed look on his face, Roman told Victoria, "Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you are wasting your time. I won't marry Iris, and I won't let Daisy leave me. I'll take full responsibility for Spencer's, and as long as you don't interfere from the shadows, I'm confident the company will thrive." Victoria made a final attempt at persuasion. Roman, if you agree to propose to Iris, I'll also consent to let Daisy stay by your side, just like we discussed before. I don't mind. I'll do anything to stay with Roman, Daisy eagerly expressed. She saw this as the best solution, where she could remain by Roman's side and help the Spencer family through their crisis. When Roman heard Daisy succumb to his mother's pressure and say that she wouldn't mind him marrying Iris if she got to stay with him, his anger knew no bounds. His brows immediately furrowed and his fierce gaze seemed to pierce through her as he asked, "Say that again." Daisy cowered in fear and dared not utter a word. But Victoria couldn't stand it and said, "You've frightened her. Let her speak her mind." "Mother, you know that Daisy is easily overwhelmed, so I hope you won't involve her again in the future. Even if she concedes to you, if I don't agree, it won't work," Roman asserted. There was a commanding presence in Roman's demeanor, and Victoria suddenly felt powerless. She had long lost the ability to control her son. His sharp eyes and determined expression left her defeated. "All right," Victoria sighed. "I hope you'll reconsider this. It's a critical matter. If the family's legacy crumbles, I'm afraid your father won't be able to bear it." She rubbed her temples, stood up slowly, and forced a bitter smile. "I need to report to your dad that the mission regarding the company wasn't successful." Roman and Daisy stood up, observing Victoria as she slowly made her way to the door. "Mother," Roman halted her, walked over, and gave her the check that she had given to Daisy, saying, "I'm sorry. Apologize to Dad on my behalf." Victoria shook her head, weariness etched on her face. "Let it be. Just take care of yourself. The family's safety is the top priority right now, so you need to be vigilant." "I will." "Mother, don't worry." "And tell Dad to not worry either," Roman affirmed, his tone resolute. "I won't allow anything to harm the company." Victoria looked at him and then at Daisy, saying nothing before she turned and walked out slowly. It was only after the door closed that Daisy asked, "Aren't you going to see her off? The driver brought her here. I saw the family's car downstairs," Roman explained, relieved. "Daisy, come with me to the company. I don't think I can leave you home alone." Daisy embraced his waist, resting her face in his arms. After a while, she asked, "Roman, which is more important to you, me, or the company?" She felt it was a somewhat naive question, but at this moment she wanted to hear his answer. Roman held her gently, seemingly deep in thought. He replied, "Both are very important to me." Daisy held on to him a bit longer before releasing her embrace and offering him a smile. "I'll go with you to the company." The financial battle between the Millers and the Spencers intensified, capturing the world's attention. Daily, magazines and newspapers buzzed with extensive reports. Retail investors, clutching their shares, were a mix of anxiety and anticipation, riveted by the unfolding drama. Daisy, on visiting the company, couldn't help but pick up on the tension. Though no one openly addressed her, she sensed an underlying unease. The staff below appeared prepared, like they were confronting an imposing adversary, their faces etched with fear. The company's spotlight shifted to the financial department, where Roman and John stood guard day in and day out. Their expressions remained grave, offering no hints, leaving the employees increasingly unsettled. Despite her daily presence in the company, Daisy attempted to blend into the background. With everyone preoccupied, she refrained from drawing attention to herself. In the lounge, she passed her time with reading. Sometimes she was so unobtrusive that even Roman nearly forgot her existence. As Daisy opened her eyes, seemingly waking up from her nap on the office couch, she noticed that the curtains were only partially drawn, allowing a muted daylight to filter in. She reached for her phone to check the time. It read 3:30 in the afternoon. Cautiously, she silently moved toward the door. Just as her hand hovered over the doorknob, she caught the sound of voices outside. It was John's unmistakable voice, Roman. I strongly advise you to reconsider. If you proceed with the share allocation, it could be trouble for us. We lack the necessary capital and it would become a liability. Roman's voice remained absent for a while, leaving Daisy slightly puzzled. She gingerly cracked open the door and saw Roman standing there, enveloped in a cloud of thick smoke. His demeanor exuded desolation and loneliness as he finally spoke. I'm well aware of what you're saying, and I wouldn't resort to this path if there were alternatives. He offered a sardonic smile. Initially, those banks were all too eager, but as soon as they sensed the Millers' intent to challenge me, they began backtracking. Even when they reluctantly agreed, they demanded an increase in asset collateral. John thought for a moment and said, I find one thing puzzling. Given Adam's usual approach, he's quick to make his moves. Why is he choosing to engage with you this time? It doesn't seem beneficial for him, does it? Roman scoffed. He merely wants to stretch my suffering. John hesitated for a moment, reluctant to broach a topic, but he eventually spoke. I think you should consider Finn's offer. A frosty glare from Roman interrupted John, making it feel like a piercing arrow through his chest. John quickly silenced himself, flashing a coy smile. I'll just leave it at that. Roman's tone remained cold. I believe you understood my stance. Why are you proposing that preposterous idea? Did my father tell you to do that? The old man hopes I can persuade you. I'm attempting to do just that. Whether you listen is your business. John sighed. I've said my piece, but seeing the current situation, I suggest you might consider getting into a pretend marriage with Iris. After Anderson solves the issue for you, you can annul the contract. Even if it becomes a real marriage, you can have a divorce later. Then you can live your life with Daisy just like you want. How about that? Daisy's heart raced and her grip on the doorknob involuntarily tightened, causing her knuckles to whiten. Even John was attempting to persuade him. It seemed like the Spencers were in a very bad position. She stood behind the door, holding her breath, and heard Roman's voice, surprisingly gentle. Get out. Fine, let's pretend I never mentioned it. I genuinely had your best interests in mind. John's voice trailed off. I said you can leave, Roman's voice thundered. Relax, I am heading out. John raised his hands in a sign of surrender and stood up. Let's drop the subject. We have a meeting scheduled with the president of the Reserve Bank, and it's nearly time. Roman discarded his cigarette in the ashtray. He took his coat and followed John a few steps. Then a thought struck him, and he said, You go ahead. I'll step in and say bye to Daisy. John offered a helpless smile. Of course, you won't feel at ease leaving without seeing her. Daisy swiftly closed the door and pretended to be asleep on the couch. Roman entered the room, gently caressed her face, and let out a nearly inaudible sigh before quietly leaving. As Roman left, Daisy kept her eyes closed, thinking about everything that was going on. Ever since Victoria's visit, she had been wrestling with inner turmoil, enduring every minute of it. She knew she should leave. It would dissolve the challenges the company faced. Its potential collapse wouldn't jeopardize employees' jobs, and Roman wouldn't be remembered as a failure. When she reopened her eyes, bitter tears clouded her vision. Daisy sat up, carelessly wiping away her tears, and picked up her phone, dialing a number. As soon as the call connected, she uttered, I want to meet you. The person on the other end had evidently anticipated this and replied with pride, I was waiting for this. You choose the location. Daisy paused briefly and said, Let's meet at the cafe down the road to my apartment. She quickly disconnected the call, afraid that she might backtrack from her decision. Daisy, fearing that Roman might find out, discreetly slipped away without informing Sarah. She called a taxi to take her to the cafe where she was to meet Iris. She arrived at the cafe before Iris, so she sat there and requested a cup of tea, sipping it slowly. Iris strolled in a few minutes later, her 7-inch high heels making an entrance, and greeted, Sorry for keeping you waiting, Daisy. Daisy looked at her and replied calmly, "It's okay." I didn't wait for long. Raising her eyebrows, Iris said to the approaching waiter, "A cappuccino for me, please." She removed her scarf, took a seat, and smiled at Daisy, saying, "I knew you'd come to see me sooner or later." Daisy lowered her gaze, peering at her cup, and let out a soft sigh. "I don't know if this is the right decision, but I guess I did want to meet you." Observing Daisy's hesitation, Iris said to her, "Daisy, put the past behind you. If you genuinely love him, you should let him go. For a man like him, the true measure of his life's worth is his career. Women are but small pleasures they use to adorn their lives. A man like Roman desires a woman who can stand by his side in public, not a naive girl like you who knows little about the world." She continued with a smile. "You two come from different worlds. As time passes, regardless of the depth of your feelings, it will fade away and you two will realize what a mistake it was to be in a relationship with each other." Iris paused for a moment before saying, "Initially, he favored me, stood by my side, and waited for my return. But when he met you, everything changed, right? Don't think you're the exception. The only reason you're still in his life is that your replacement hasn't arrived yet. When she does, he'll discard you just as mercilessly as he did me. In that case, why are you still wanting to be involved with him?" Daisy began to ask, but was interrupted by the arrival of the waiter, who brought the coffee and discreetly withdrew. Iris took a small spoon and delicately stirred the rich brown liquid in her cup, filling the air with its enticing aroma. "Because I love him," Iris replied, her voice soft and tinged with melancholy. "In a society like ours, finding someone you genuinely care for, someone to marry, is a challenging feat. My family is quite influential. My father and brother love me and place my happiness above mere financial profits. They're willing to assist the Spencer family on my behalf. They understand Roman's character and his strong bond with me. That's why they'd find peace if I were to be with him." As Iris spoke, she kept her gaze lowered, her demeanor less arrogant than before. She wore a strand of pearls around her neck, their luminescence matching her porcelain-like complexion. It was a striking combination. Her hand, holding the spoon, lightly touched her delicate fingers, exuding an air of elegance and generosity. At that moment, Daisy couldn't help but be stunned by Iris. She knew she'd never attain the same level of nobility and grace. With a sigh, Daisy said, "I've thought about it. I'm willing to end our relationship for Roman's sake. However, I fear he might come looking for me again, as he has done before. Didn't Aunt Victoria tell you this?" Iris raised her eyes to meet Daisy's. "This time, we must make Roman stop in his pursuit." "But I don't know how to do that," Daisy began, her uncertainty apparent. Iris arched an eyebrow and slyly suggested, "I have an idea. Will you be willing to do what I tell you to?" With that, she motioned for Daisy to lean in closer and whispered a few words into her ear. Daisy's expression underwent a sudden change. Her eyes widened and she slowly straightened up, looking at Iris in shock. "If you find it too much, we can think of some other way, but considering my knowledge of Roman, this should be the most effective," Iris added. Daisy's hand trembled slightly and her throat felt parched. She took a large gulp of water, and as it coursed down her throat, it seemed to freeze her heart from within. That night, Roman returned home after his meeting with the president of the Reserve Bank concluded early. It was around 9 o'clock that Daisy heard the sound of him unlocking the door. She quickly went to the entrance to welcome him. Roman came into the house and upon seeing her asked, "Have you eaten?" Daisy looked at him and said, "You are early today?" "Yes, I did eat, though. I didn't feel like cooking alone, so I ordered dinner from the restaurant down the block. There's still some left over if you want." Roman got curious about her outing and asked her, "What did you have?" "Alfredo pasta," Daisy responded, taking his coat and draping it over the sofa's armrest. That place serves delicious Italian food. As Daisy spoke, she rushed to the kitchen to prepare tea for him. While adding tea leaves, her hand shook, causing her to spill more leaves than intended. She attempted to return the excess to the tea can, but accidentally knocked a teacup off the counter with a sharp clatter. It shattered into pieces, scattering fine white porcelain shards across the floor. Daisy stood still for a moment before quickly kneeling down to collect the broken pieces. At the same moment, Roman hurried to the kitchen and saw the shattered porcelain on the floor before looking at Daisy somewhat irritated. He pulled her up by the arm and asked sternly, "What happened? You're not a child. Why didn't you take care of yourself? And why the hell are you picking these shards up with bare hands?" Daisy suddenly noticed her hand was bleeding and that she had inadvertently cut herself while collecting the porcelain fragments. What was strange, though, was that she didn't feel any pain even upon seeing herself bleed. Roman guided her to the living room and then set off to get the first aid kit. While he was busy finding the kit, Daisy kept reassuring him, "It's okay. I will just apply pressure. It'll be fine. The cut isn't deep and it's not too bad." Roman returned with the kit, casting a cold glance at her. Daisy instinctively fell silent and let him disinfect her wound and applied a hemostatic patch. Daisy tried to steal glances at him to gauge his mood, but his expression remained stern, leaving her with no choice but to be patient. After tending to her wound, Roman proceeded to the kitchen to clean up. Daisy could hear the clattering inside as if he was venting some pent-up frustration. As the noise continued, she grew increasingly anxious and started squeezing her injured finger. When Roman returned and noticed her distant look, he said, "Squeeze it harder. Doesn't it hurt enough?" Daisy made a confused sound and raised her gaze to meet his. At that moment, his deep eyes held a flicker of anger. "What's going on? Why are you so distressed?" "No, it's nothing," Daisy mumbled, lowering her head and involuntarily rubbing her hands together. Roman looked at her coldly, observing her pinching her injured finger. He instructed, "Let go of your finger." Daisy reacted swiftly this time, releasing her finger and offering a sheepish smile. "I forgot again." However, Roman remained stern and pressed further. "You don't want to share what's bothering you because it's nothing or because you are too scared to do it." Daisy understood very well that she couldn't hide anything from him, so she confessed honestly, "I met with Iris this afternoon." Roman's tone grew even more severe as he asked, "Why did you meet her? Didn't I explicitly tell you not to?" Roman's anger made Daisy shrink in fear, seemingly wishing to bury her head in the ground. Roman continued to question her. "What did she say to you?" Daisy explained to him quietly. "It was nothing, really. We just had a casual conversation. She didn't say anything hurtful to me." When Roman heard her say that, he sneered. "Since when did you two become friends who hang out with each other? If you don't talk to me about what really happened, I will call her myself. How does that sound?" Daisy felt cornered when she realized she couldn't hide anything from Roman. Iris had been correct. Her carelessness might cost her dearly. If she hadn't met with Iris, Roman wouldn't be pressing her like this, and she knew that he wouldn't give up easily. With a determined breath, she admitted honestly, "Iris came to see me for the same reason as Madame, but she didn't say anything nasty or make things difficult for me." Roman inquired. "How did you respond to her?" "I didn't say much." Daisy glanced at him briefly. She eventually gave up and left. Roman's eyes bore into her, sharp and unwavering. "Why didn't you say anything? Don't you have an answer in your heart?" Daisy, avoiding his gaze, unconsciously clasped her hands together. Roman seized her uninjured hand, his gaze still icy. "Tell me what's truly going on in your head. Don't lie to me. You can't deceive me, okay? Do you want to leave me again?" Daisy took a deep breath, seemingly to calm herself down. "No, I just want to move out temporarily, let you handle the family matters without distractions, and then come back. They couldn't persuade me to leave you forever, so I will return in the future." I don't want to burden you anymore. The best solution as of now is for me to leave for a while. No one will trouble me, and you can focus on your business without any concerns. Don't worry, I won't go far. I'll stay in the area where I lived before. If you miss me, you can always come find me. She spoke slowly, her expression somewhat pained as she stared at her hands. Roman retorted at her suggestion in a rage-filled tone. What are you blabbering about? You're not allowed to go anywhere. Just stay home. I won't let them harm you again. Daisy didn't want to anger him, or even worse, make him sad. But the way he held her hand, there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. Daisy lowered her head briefly, then gazed at him with determination. Roman, please just trust me this time. If you focus on winning this battle, I'll return to you soon. Roman didn't respond to her. He simply let go of her hand and sat there in silence, as if deep in thought. The room was enveloped in an eerie stillness, so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. After some time, Roman suddenly pulled her up, saying, "Come with me." Daisy inquired, "Where are we going?" His continued silence began to unsettle Daisy. As they sat in the car, she kept asking, "Roman, it's so late. Where are we going?" Roman remained silent, clearly tired of her questions. He eventually responded, "Why do you ask so many questions? You'll find out when we get there." However, Daisy gradually grew more apprehensive. She recognized the route, and it was leading to Roman's ancestral house. He seemed to be taking her back there. The late hour only heightened her sense of unease. The more Daisy thought about their destination, the more panic welled up within her. A thin layer of sweat formed on her back, and her palms grew damp. The large iron gate opened slowly, and Daisy knew it was too late to stop it. The car came to a halt beneath a tree, and Andrew quickly descended the steps to greet them. Daisy hadn't seen him in a while, so she felt somewhat bashful. Blushing, she softly called out, "Andrew!" Upon seeing Daisy emerge from the car, Andrew was briefly surprised, but then greeted her with a smile. "Daisy, you are here." Though his voice sounded composed, Daisy detected a hint of warmth, and it calmed the unease in her heart. Andrew greeted Roman as well. "Sir, I didn't know you would be visiting so late." Andrew was quite adept at reading people's expressions. He noticed something was amiss with Roman's demeanor and added, "Anyway, we can discuss it in the morning. Come in. I'll have someone clean up, and both you and Daisy can stay here for the night." Roman said nothing, simply pulling Daisy up the steps. Andrew sensed that something was wrong and hastened to catch up. However, when he entered the house, Roman had already ascended the stairs. Victoria had seen Roman's car approaching the courtyard through the upstairs window. She knew her son was returning, but due to her anger, she hadn't gone downstairs to greet him. She said to George, who was lying on the bed, "He has come here so late. He must be bringing some trouble. Don't expect him to come over and pay us a visit." As soon as Victoria finished speaking, Roman's footsteps halted at her bedroom door. Despite any resentment she might harbor, he was still her biological son. Victoria reluctantly went over to open the door, only to find Daisy standing there with him. Victoria's expression darkened, and she rebuked Roman rudely. "What are you doing back here? Do you want to check if we're alive or not?" Ignoring his mother's taunt, Roman asked, "Where's father?" Victoria seethed with anger, gritting her teeth as she told him, "Your dad is sleeping. Tell me what's so urgent. Are you intentionally trying to provoke us? Why did you bring Daisy here?" George's voice came from inside as he said, "Is Roman here?" "It's me, father," Roman replied loudly. "I have something to tell you." Victoria's mood took a turn for the worse, and she forcefully pushed Roman back, saying, "I told you your dad is sleeping. We can discuss this tomorrow." Then she scolded Daisy. "What are you standing there for? Take him away from here. Do you want to see something happen to his father?" Daisy had been in a daze since entering the house. However, when she heard Victoria's words, she seemed to snap back to reality. She joined Victoria in pulling Roman out. Roman merely sneered.
It's better to solve the matter as soon as possible and get done with it.
Hearing Roman's stubborn reply, Victoria scolded. Why are you acting so recklessly? You know your father is in poor health and you come here to provoke him. Is this how you are going to take out your anger at us? No matter how hard Victoria tried to make him go away, Roman refused to let go. He made it clear, I have something to talk to father and I'll leave once I've done so. I won't allow it. Victoria was furious and exasperated. Daisy grabbed Roman's arm and with all her strength managed to pull him out of the room. Amidst the commotion, George emerged in the doorway. Although his voice was not loud, his presence was commanding. Let him say what he wants to say. I want to hear it.
George, why are you up?
Victoria went over to support her husband. Go back to sleep. Don't let yourself be bothered by him. George remained composed, a personality trait that had developed over time. He calmly stated, let him speak what he wants to. Roman, with Daisy at his side, stood with determination. His tone was resolute as he told them, I want to marry Daisy, and we plan to get the marriage certificate tomorrow. Given the current challenges the company is facing, we won't hold a wedding for now. The wedding will take place once the company's crisis is resolved. If you find it embarrassing to have Daisy as your daughter-in-law, you don't have to attend the wedding. Victoria's anger surged and her blood pressure rose again, causing her to stagger. What do you think you're doing? Giving us an ultimatum? You're really infuriating me. She was on the verge of approaching him, but George held her back. George spoke with an even tone. Are you here to ask us for our blessings, or are you here to inform us? Roman hesitated for a moment before admitting, I'm here to ask you for your blessings. George nodded his head and said, Come to the study. Let's have a chat, man to man. Roman, along with Daisy, followed George to the study with Victoria and Andrew trailing behind. Daisy kept her head down, trembling with fear, not knowing how George was going to react to Roman's declaration of their marriage. The tension in the room was overwhelming. Roman's confrontation with his family was far more intense than she could bear. She wanted to leave the room, but Roman held her tightly and whispered words of comfort in her ear. Don't be scared. I'll handle everything. Despite Roman's assurances, Daisy couldn't shake her apprehension. She knew that she had become a source of discord between Roman and his family. The anger in the household was palpable, and she felt like a pariah, the cause of all their strife. She couldn't fathom how Roman could be willing to sever ties with his own parents for her. She knew the value of having parents and how it felt to be alone and helpless. In her eyes, Roman's actions seemed irrational. Roman's face had contorted with an unusual intensity and his eyes glimmered with a hint of madness, making him appear like a completely different person. It was a strange and unsettling sight for Daisy to witness. Roman finally released her from his grip, keeping his posture upright and his eyes piercing as if he could cut a hole through the ancestral painting hanging on the wall. George turned around to face him and said, Do you know how wrong you are in asking permission for this preposterous union? I don't see where I've gone wrong, Roman retorted loudly. Is it wrong for me to want my own happiness? He maintained a hint of stubbornness in his expression. You still don't see your mistake, do you? George, who had been holding back, finally grew angry, saying, Then stay right here and think about the blunder you are about to commit. When you've thought things through and are ready to admit your mistake, only then will I allow you to leave the house. He stormed out, and Victoria rushed to help him. She looked at Roman and whispered, Don't be so stubborn, I beg of you. As they moved farther away, their voices faded, eventually becoming inaudible. Roman remained standing, his gaze fixed on the massive painting hanging on the wall, his eyes flickering with deep contemplation. Perhaps feeling the silence to be too overwhelming, Roman turned around and noticed that even Daisy was no longer by his side. He furrowed his brow slightly and instinctively thought of finding her. Just then, a faint cough broke the silence from outside the door. It was barely audible, like an echo caused by long moments of solitude. However, Roman's mind immediately settled. It was Daisy's, and she was right outside the door. She hadn't left the scene. She stayed. Roman's hunch was correct. Daisy was indeed standing outside the door, peering through the crack at Roman's back. Daisy's tears finally welled up and streamed down, her breath no longer held. She had never anticipated Roman's actions. If she had known this would happen, she would not have followed him here. The situation in the company was already chaotic, and now trouble had also struck at home. All because of her. She felt like a harbinger of disaster, constantly bringing various misfortunes to Roman. It felt as though a heavy stone was pressing down on her chest, making it difficult to breathe. However, she dared not let out a sound, fearing that it might startle him. She was just an ordinary girl, as humble as the dust on the ground. He was the only one who cherished and considered her a treasure. She couldn't bear such intense love. Even if it meant enduring a myriad of sadness, it was a small price to pay for Roman's secure future. Roman stood in the room in quiet contemplation while she cried silently outside the door. It was as if they had both turned into sculptures. The surroundings were so hushed that you could hear a pin drop, not a single sound breaking the stillness, and time appeared to stand still, frozen at that moment. Roman strained his ears, paying close attention to the sounds outside. After a while, he indeed heard a sound, but it wasn't Daisy's footsteps. These steps were noisy and heavy. It struck him that it must be his parents. As expected, the door was pushed open, and Victoria helped George in, walking inside. Roman still didn't look at them. He kept his gaze fixed on the wall. "Have you thought it through?" George inquired. Roman responded firmly, "I have thought about it." "What exactly have you thought?" George pressed for clarification. Roman's answer was straightforward. "I want to get married to Daisy, and we'll marry tomorrow." George was furious at his blatant display of rebellion. "How dare you? I have had enough of your attitude. Here is what I am going to do. I am disowning you as my son right now." Even Victoria's expression shifted at this moment. She rushed forward and slapped Roman's face, saying sternly, "Apologize to your father now. Say you won't get married. Admit you were wrong." Defiant, Roman received the slap but remained resolute. "I'm not wrong. I want to get married, and I will do so." Victoria was both angry and desperate. If Roman continued to act like that, he would be disowned. At that moment, George came forward and slapped him, saying, "You're a traitor. You are hell-bent on tarnishing the name and legacy that our family built for generations, and you have no remorse about it. I don't want to see your face ever again. I am done putting up with such an ungrateful child, and you are no longer a part of this family." Seeing Roman getting slapped by his father, Daisy's heart was torn apart, but she didn't dare to intervene. She clung to the door frame as tears streamed down her face. Victoria cried out, "George, please don't say that." "He is our only son. He is just misguided and angry right now. I am sure he will come to his senses and realize his mistake." But George, who didn't appear convinced at all at her excuse, stood there resolute with his back straight and his face red with anger. He looked at Victoria and declared sharply, "I am not going back on my word, and no one will dare to advocate for him from this moment." Victoria halted in her tracks. She knew her husband's temper very well. He might seem like a kind old man on most days, but when he was genuinely angry, no one dared to challenge him. George was still seething as Roman clung to his decision defiantly, unafraid of his father's anger, and reaffirmed, "I'm not wrong. I have made my decision, and I do not intend to go back on it either." Victoria, tears streaming down her face, turned away, unable to bear the sight of her husband and her son participating in this ugly tussle. At this crucial moment, Daisy abruptly entered the room and pushed Roman away from George's line of sight. Tears welled in her wide, angry eyes as she locked her gaze onto Roman. I don't want to get married. Why have you put me in this situation? Have you ever considered my feelings? You're so selfish that you didn't even think of asking me about this once. Daisy's outburst left everyone stunned. George was frozen, and Victoria's eyes widened in shock, whereas Roman's face displayed a whirlwind of emotions. Before anyone could react, Daisy had bolted out of the room. Roman, in a state of shock, watched her hasty departure and chased after her. But then he heard his mother call him from behind. "George, what's wrong with you? Roman, look at your father." Roman swiftly turned around and found his father lying in Andrew's arms. He halted in his tracks, hurried back, and gently lifted his father, carrying him into the room. He urgently instructed, "Mom, please get his medicines quickly. Andrew, call the doctor right now." For the first time in a long while, Roman was overwhelmed with fear. The realization struck him like a lightning bolt, and he knew he had made a grave mistake. If his father's health was truly at risk, his relationship with Daisy might be irreparably shattered. After making sure that George's health was taken care of, Roman returned to his apartment late at night. The creak of the door echoed through the quiet house as he stepped in. He looked up only to see Daisy seated on the living room sofa with her eyes fixed on him in dim light. Roman's brows furrowed as he saw her blank expression. He bent down to swap his coat and asked her,
Why aren't you in bed already? How's your father doing?
"It must not be good since you are so late." Daisy's voice, almost hoarse, broke the silence of the night, like gauze caressing Roman's ears. She had heard Victoria's cries when she was walking out of the room, but the servants' disdainful gazes froze her in place. Those looks were all too familiar, pushing her to flee the scene immediately. "It's fine now." He took his medicine and fell asleep. The doctor was there to monitor his condition. "He's going to be okay," Roman assured her as he settled beside her. The weariness etched into his features couldn't be concealed. He pinched the bridge of his nose, turned to her, and then his gaze shifted to the suitcase by the wall. His expression shifted suddenly. "Are you really planning to leave?" Roman noticed her red and swollen eyes, a telltale sign of recent tears. A pang of guilt pierced his heart, and he whispered, "I'm sorry, Daisy." Daisy's gaze remained fixed on the glass of water on the coffee table, her voice tinged with indifference. "You're not sorry for me. You're sorry for your parents." A sense of panic welled up in Roman as if he teetered on the precipice of shattering into pieces. He reached for her hand, desperation in his voice. "Daisy." She pulled her hand away, meeting his gaze with unwavering clarity. "There could have been another way. If you continue like this, I have to leave." "Daisy," Roman sighed heavily. "This isn't fair, the way you're treating me." "If I'd known it would come to this, I wouldn't have gone with you," Daisy asserted. "You should understand that the last thing I want is to hurt your parents. They are your family. If you harm those closest to you, it will come back to haunt you. Don't you see that?" "I'm sad too." Roman ruffled his hair, a glum look in his eyes. "I just don't want you to go." Their words hung in the air and the room fell into silence. The stillness was almost suffocating, the air growing thin. Roman felt as if he couldn't breathe, standing there in silence. Thoughts raced through his mind like a montage of slow-motion scenes, his mother's anger, his father's health, and Daisy sadly sitting with her luggage in the apartment. It was hard to tell how much time had passed when Daisy finally rose to her feet. "I will be moving out tomorrow. We are in dire need of some space if we want to sort out this mess with a clear head and without any further damage. You know where to find me. You can call me whenever you want." She took a couple of steps, but there was no sound of Roman following her. She stopped and turned to him. "Aren't you coming to bed?" Roman extracted his cigarette case, his tone calm. "You go to bed first. I'll come up after I've had a cigarette." Daisy nodded, holding on to the cool as she silently ascended the stairs. But that night, Roman never joined her upstairs. He only went up at dawn, grabbing fresh clothes and taking a shower. Daisy wondered if Roman had slept on the living room sofa, or was he also in a state like her, not sleeping at all? She lay there, eyes wide open, fixated on a glass vase by the window. At that moment, Daisy thought, maybe it's for the best. If we don't see each other for some time, perhaps we won't be so heartbroken. When Daisy was sure that Roman had left for work, she swiftly rose from her bed, changed into her jeans and jumper, and descended the stairs. She was uncertain how many cigarettes Roman had indulged in the previous night. The living room still bore the scent of tobacco, and the ashtray overflowed with spent cigarette ends. Even the pristine white shag carpet near the sofa bore the aftermath. Daisy cracked open a window halfway to allow some fresh air to dispel the lingering smell. Her departure this time was simple, almost as if she were just stepping out briefly for a break. Upon reaching the ground floor, she encountered the security guard who greeted her with a warm smile, offering to call a cab for her. The early morning sight of cheerful faces was uplifting, lightening Daisy's mood. She reciprocated the smile and told the guard that she was just going to visit the nearby store for some grocery shopping, so there was no need for a cab. Daisy stood by the door and thanked him for his care. The butler responded graciously, displaying a true gentlemanly demeanor. As Daisy slowly made her way down the street with a suitcase, claiming she was off to the grocery store, the housekeeper found it peculiar and decided to alert Roman. He dialed Roman's number, but this time the man on the other end didn't react much to the news. He simply replied, "I know," and hung up the call. The housekeeper stood at the door, watching the slender figure recede into the distance. He let out a soft sigh and turned back to the foyer. It was evident to him that Daisy was very special to his boss. Each time the girl had left the place, it drove his boss nearly to the brink of madness. Not too long ago, he had proposed to her in public, and the news had even made it to the newspapers. The guard had believed that good things were on the horizon and had felt genuinely happy for them. However, he had not anticipated the girl's departure today, nor the president's indifference upon hearing the news. It seemed that the Cinderella story was but a tale and did not stand a chance against the cruel reality of life. Daisy savored a bowl of ramen at the grocery store and contemplated calling Kevin. After some consideration, she refrained from making the call. What if Kevin had just dozed off after his night shift and she woke him with her call? Besides, she had the key to his place, so she could simply go there. With this in mind, she dragged her suitcase along, hailed a cab, and informed the driver of the destination. The driver said, "That place is about to be demolished. Haven't you moved out yet?" Daisy responded. "I heard announcements on loudspeakers, but I never saw any actual movement." "Don't you know?" the driver inquired. "They have started on it in the past few days. I have a fellow who rents there, and he told me that they won't be able to stay there much longer." Daisy mulled over the information and said, "I will have to search for a new place then." The driver casually took out a business card and handed it to her. "If you're looking for a place to rent, call the number on this card. It's my friend's real estate agency."
He's reliable and has a good reputation. Just mention my name as the referral. They don't charge for viewing properties, and their commissions are reasonable. Everyone in this city is from someplace else, so they understand the struggles. They won't take advantage of you."
The driver continued talking, but when he did not hear Daisy's voice, he inquired, "So, what do you do?" Daisy thought for a moment and replied, "I'm a painter." "A painter?" The driver appeared somewhat puzzled, but then had a sudden realization. "You are an artist, then." He looked back at her and added, "Considering your young age, I must say that I didn't expect you to be a painter." Daisy blushed slightly and admitted, "I'm not really a painter. I just dabble in it."
"Can you actually make money selling paintings?"
the driver inquired. Daisy replied, "I've sold a few."
"Are they expensive?" he asked.
"It depends," Daisy explained. "The pricing is determined by the gallery, and I don't have a say in it."
"You sell paintings in a gallery, so you're a painter," the driver said with a smile. "You seem quite modest.
Daisy wasn't much of a talker, but she found herself in the company of a very chatty driver. They engaged in conversation during the journey, and it lightened the burden of sadness in her heart. As they reached the community intersection where Kevin was housed currently, Daisy informed the driver, "I'll get down here. The streets inside are quite narrow, so there is no need to go in." The driver, however, insisted, "It's all right, I'll take you in. It's not easy to drag a suitcase around." Daisy continued to resist since she disliked taking advantage of others. However, the driver couldn't be dissuaded and ultimately dropped her off at her building. Daisy handed him $1, and as he drove off, he leaned out of the car window and said, "If you're looking for a house, just call the number on the business card." Daisy thanked the cab driver once more, then headed upstairs to Kevin's house, lugging a full suitcase. Though it wasn't a heavy burden, the stairs proved a bit challenging. Upon reaching the door, she fished out her key and unlocked it. Before the door could swing open, a voice from inside boomed, "Who's there?" Without delay, Kevin hurried to the door and, upon seeing Daisy, let out a sigh of relief. "You didn't even call me when you arrived. I thought you were a thief," he quipped, rushing to help Daisy with her luggage. Daisy replied, "I was worried you might be asleep. Besides, I had my key, so I came over on my own." Kevin's gaze was fixed on her sizable luggage, and he sensed something was amiss. He looked at Daisy with surprise, asking, "What's the deal with all these bags that you brought?" "I'm moving back in to live with you," Daisy said with a chuckle as she tugged the suitcase toward the room. She opened the bag, took out the clothes, and carefully stowed them in the closet. Kevin observed her for a while before cautiously inquiring, "Daisy, you and Roman." "We've broken up," Daisy stated calmly. "This time, it's for real." Kevin looked at her suspiciously. "Is it because their company is about to go under?" Daisy lowered her head as she folded her clothes. "If I leave him, it won't go under." "What do you mean?" Kevin's confusion deepened. "Please tell me everything." Daisy held nothing back, sharing all the details with him. While Kevin agreed with her decision to leave, he still remained a bit concerned. "Daisy, if you're really going through with this breakup, you can't handle it the way you did last time." "No, I won't repeat the past," Daisy reassured him while finishing her packing. "Anyway, let's go shopping and prepare a hearty lunch. After the art exhibition last time, I wanted to treat you to a meal. By the way, I heard that this place is going to be demolished and many people have already moved out. Many families left 2 days ago. Now, there are only about 10 households left in this building, so public safety isn't great. When I heard the doorbell just now, I thought it might be a burglar," Kevin added. Daisy inquired, "Do we have to move as well?" Kevin confirmed, "Yes, the landlord returned the deposit and told me we can stay here for free until the end of the lease. She won't collect rent." "I figured if it's free, we'll stay until the last day and then find a new place." "Kevin," Daisy murmured, her long eyelashes trembling like delicate butterfly wings after the rain, soft and fragile. "I want to leave this city." Kevin remained silent for a moment before replying, "It's okay. I understand. You can cut all ties with him and start fresh. I'll go with you. Daisy, you can support yourself with your art." "But you have a good job here and you suddenly want to leave," Daisy expressed her concern. "It's just a security position, nothing special," Kevin said. "I can find a new job elsewhere." "All right," Daisy chuckled suddenly. "It's a liberating decision." Kevin, testing her, asked, "Can you really let go of Roman?" Daisy furrowed her brow, questioning, "What are you trying to say?" "I am not trying to say anything," Kevin reassured her, studying her carefully. "I'm just surprised that you don't seem very sad about this breakup." "Do you enjoy seeing me cry?" Daisy countered. Kevin laughed and patted her head. "That's not it. You've grown stronger. Honestly, this isn't a big deal. The first time you broke up with him, it felt like the end of the world for you." Daisy preferred not to dwell on this topic and nudged him out of the room. "Let's go grocery shopping. I've got money. I'll buy whatever you want to eat."
Kevin chuckled. "Really, I never asked you how much you earned from the last art exhibition. $1 million, can you imagine? I never thought I could actually make money from this profession."
Daisy proudly gestured with her fingers and smiled. Kevin's surprise was evident, his wide eyes narrowing for a moment. "I want to eat lobster then. You should be generous now that you are a rich lady." Daisy responded, "Where do you find lobsters in the winter? I'll treat you to a seafood restaurant next time. They serve lobsters, as well as fish and shellfish. It's all delicious." With a contented hum, Kevin headed to the kitchen, picked up his grocery list, and headed downstairs with Daisy. Meanwhile, Roman disconnected the call he was on and tossed the phone onto the table. He turned his attention back to the big screen, where red and green numbers danced and various curves shifted. His brow furrowed as he observed the market changes with intensity. Though he sensed a murmur in his ears, he couldn't discern it clearly amidst the cacophony. Ignoring the distraction, he continued to fixate on the trading interface. It wasn't until someone bumped into his shoulder that he tore his gaze away, and it was John standing beside him. John questioned, "Why are you so lost in thought? I called you multiple times, but you didn't seem to hear." Roman was surprised and said, "You called me? What did you want me to do?" With folded arms, John continued, "I still have a feeling that something's amiss. Adam appears to have ulterior motives. Look at this. He could easily lower the stock price significantly, but he's not doing it. Instead, he's playing with it, lowering it a bit, then raising it and repeating the entire thing again. He has enough resources to dominate us, but he is happy toying with us. What's his endgame?" Roman countered, "I've said it before. He wants to see me struggle until I'm at my wit's end, purely for his own satisfaction. Finn had once mentioned that Adam is self-centered, so he likely enjoys the thrill of a winner taking all scenarios." John shook his head. "No. I believe he has ulterior motives, but we can't discern them just yet. It's unfortunate that Tony isn't involved in this. He could have provided valuable information. Truth be told, we've been in a deadlock with the Millers for over half a year without any breakthroughs. Whenever they feel threatened, they're willing to take big risks. Roman, do you think we should proactively engage with Adam?" Roman remained silent for an extended moment. This caught John's attention, and he leaned in to observe Roman. Roman's eyes remained fixed on the screen, but they seemed distant, as if he were peering beyond the monitor. John gazed at Roman for an extended period, growing increasingly concerned. Roman had never lost his focus during a conversation. What was happening? Could it be that he was under excessive pressure, leading to some mental strain? John reached out and waved his hand in front of Roman's eyes, receiving no response. He decided to snap Roman out of his reverie with a hearty slap on the shoulder. Roman jumped in surprise, his face falling. "What are you doing?" he demanded. With an amused tone, John inquired, "What's gotten into you today? You're constantly distracted. I call your name and you don't hear. I talk to you and you don't respond. What's going on? Come on, what's bothering you?" He reached out to check Roman's forehead. "Are you feeling unwell?" "It's nothing." Roman brushed his hand away and replied calmly, "I've been working tirelessly in recent days and didn't get enough rest. I just need a quick nap." "Indeed, you should get some rest and clear your mind," John advised with a wise look. Roman rolled his eyes and retorted, "I'm here to keep an eye on you today. You handle the daily company affairs. Now, get back to work." "I'm here to talk business with you," John recalled suddenly. "I heard that the Millers have officially filed a breach of contract lawsuit against us. It won't be long before the court summons arrives. What should we do? Each of these issues is a massive financial drain. How do we plug the leaks? You used to say that problems with monetary solutions were no big deal, but now things are different." Roman thought for a moment and replied, "It seems like he wants to have it both ways.
How did your conversation with the governor go yesterday? John explained. He's a formidable adversary, and his terms are even stricter than the bank's. You still have those 2 pieces of land that were auctioned off last time, right? He's eyeing them as additional collateral. Even though they've appreciated in value over time and can easily cover the loan, he still wants them as a secondary mortgage. It's clearly a way to exert more control on us. Roman sighed. There's no choice. He's at least daring to wade into this murky situation. There's no other option. No one else is willing to lend us such a substantial amount, especially when they all see facing Adam as a dead end. John said as he observed the vibrant display on the big screen, "We've poured in a significant amount of money and it's disappeared without a trace. Trying to outspend Adam is a lost cause." Roman, this isn't the way forward. As long as he's not trying to kill me right now, I'll stand by his side until the end. Roman asserted, I'm flying to the UK tomorrow and you'll have full responsibility for the company. John inquired with surprise, What's taking you to the UK at this time? Roman handed a cigarette to John, lit one for himself, and then replied, You said it yourself. This approach won't work. I need to explore other options. You're leaving tomorrow? Are you taking Daisy with you? John inquired further. Roman shook his head, taking a long drag of his cigarette. John said, Why don't we have her stay at my place and we can take care of her together? Seeing Roman's less than thrilled expression, he added with a grin, Or are you reluctant to trust me and will ask Sarah to stay at your house? Roman took a puff of his cigarette and clarified, She has already moved out. What do you mean she moved out? John was taken aback. Where did she move to? To Kevin's place. Roman responded with a blank face. John's eyes widened in disbelief. You want Daisy to live with Kevin. He trailed off, especially because Roman's expression had grown increasingly somber. Swiftly, John altered his tone and tried to reassure him, I think it's all right. Let her stay with Kevin and you can focus on the company's matters. Once the company issues are resolved, you can bring her back. Roman responded. That's what she wanted. He took another drag of his cigarette, exhaled the smoke slowly, and continued to gaze at the big screen with vacant eyes. John finally understood the reason behind Roman's distraction today. It was because Daisy had moved in with Kevin. Now, it all made sense. He let out a sigh of relief, turned, and walked away slowly. Adam stood against the towering pillar on the second floor, his gaze icy as he observed the frenetic dance of the revelers below. The swirling and flickering lights occasionally swept over the crowd, but he remained hidden behind the pillar, shrouded in darkness. He was in a club that Tony frequented and was known for its liveliness. However, Adam couldn't fathom why Tony didn't opt for a quiet hotel room, but instead chose this raucous setting. The music pulsated with such intensity that even the massive wooden pillar against which Adam leaned seemed to vibrate in rhythm as if electrified, sending tremors through his body. Those around him swayed to the beat, but he appeared as if from another realm, his eyes cold and indifferent. His lithe form resembled a statue standing against the turbulent winds, a stark contrast to the exuberance surrounding him. Since Finn's admonition about drunk driving, Iris had learned her lesson well. Before heading home, her routine involved a stop at the bathroom to wash her face and remove her makeup. A 10-minute walk along the curb helped dissipate the alcohol's scent, making it possible to go unnoticed when she arrived home. After all, Finn wasn't vigilantly waiting in the living room every night. Late at night, the streets were devoid of people, yet they were far from desolate. In this vibrant city, across from her, buildings were bathed in colorful lights, and Iris strolled amidst these glittering edifices. Iris relished this serene atmosphere, as if she had stepped into a hushed fairy tale world, allowing her mind to wander freely. The cold wind against her face and the brisk chill it carried brought Iris a sense of pure joy. It was, in her eyes,
an exquisite pleasure. But tonight was different, and Iris felt an unsettling presence as footsteps paced behind her. An unease crept over her, and she couldn't help but panic. She made 2 consecutive turns, attempting to shake off the stalker, but the footsteps remained unhurried. When their sound reached her ears, she cautiously lowered her head and glanced sideways, yet no one was present there. The people following her weren't too close, but they weren't far away either. Panic clouded her judgment, making it difficult to navigate the streets. Spotting a right turn leading into an alley, she darted inside. The alley was narrow and dimly lit, lined with small shops featuring glass displays and metal shutters. Iris immediately regretted her decision to enter the alley, given how barren it was at this time of the night. Just as she contemplated leaving, the footsteps resurfaced. Her heart raced, and soon she was almost jogging. Panic engulfed Iris, and she sprinted forward with all her might. The dark alley felt like a gaping, silent maw, swallowing her whole, and the path seemed endless. Finally, someone caught up to her, not one, but 3 of them. They were clad in coats and jeans, their unkempt hair and yellowing teeth revealing a hint of menace that surpassed typical hecklers found in the street. One of them leered at her, grinning. "You're quite the runner, but you wouldn't want your life to run away, would you?" Iris regarded them with caution, slowly retreating against the wall, her voice raised in an anxious plea. "What are you planning to do? No matter how loudly you shout, it's pointless. No one's around to hear you." The man who spoke had a stutter, and he chuckled, revealing his teeth. Iris's disgust showed as she took another step back, pressing against the wall. As she moved back, the stuttering man advanced, a sinister grin on his face, emitting an unpleasant odor that forced her to cover her nose in revulsion. Another slightly older man beside him grew impatient and said, "Why are you babbling so much today?" "We've been through this. Speed is what counts in our line of work. Get in, get the money, and get out." "Speed? What's the rush?" The stuttering man disagreed. "There's no one here except us. Meeting a beautiful woman is a rare opportunity. We can't just hurry through without saying a few words to her." "It's been so long." It became evident that they were after money. Iris, feeling a touch calmer, clutched the small bag in her hand and said, "I'll give you money, but please don't harm me." The older man's eyes gleamed with greed. "All right, we're only interested in money and we won't do anything to you. Hand over the money and we'll let you go." Who said anything about letting her go? The stuttering man was displeased, glaring at the older man before turning to Iris with a twisted smile. "Beautiful, how about going for a late-night snack? It will be my treat. What do you say?" As he said this, he reached out to grab Iris's arm. Iris screamed and tried to evade, but she found herself cornered with a wall behind her. At that moment, Iris was consumed by fear. Suddenly, a tall figure materialized before them, and a chilling command echoed around them. "Stop right there!" With lightning speed, before the words had fully left his mouth, the stuttering man found himself flung 3 feet away by his collar. Iris was in a state of extreme panic, and her sole realization was that the man who was here to rescue her was none other than Adam. The moment his hand had made contact with the heckler, she instinctively sought refuge in his arms. Adam momentarily froze when Iris ran into his arms, but then he securely encircled her waist, his voice low and commanding. "Don't be scared." His words resonated with a deafening intensity. Iris thought in her head, how could it be him? Was it actually him? He looked more terrifying than the devil. Iris pushed Adam with all her might and spun around, making a dash for the alley's entrance. Adam was caught off guard, and Iris's powerful shove sent him stumbling, his dazed gaze following her fleeing figure. The stuttering man whistled and ran after Iris. The other 2 were not far behind. In an instant, Adam was left alone. Before Iris could make it out of the alley, the 3 men caught up to her. The stuttering man reached her first. "You,
Why are you running?
Money, hand it over, now. Iris looked at Adam, who was now striding toward them, and gripped the stuttering man's hand tightly, saying, "Let me go and I'll give you the money." Hastily, Iris opened her bag to retrieve the money, saying, "Here, you can take it all." While the three men were preoccupied gathering the scattered money, Iris attempted to flee, but her hand was seized once more. The grip was firm and carried a subtle hint of cologne that wafted into her senses. It was Adam. In distress, Iris screamed loudly, "Let me go!" The stuttering man, having pocketed some money, rushed over to intervene. "What are you doing? Let her go!" Adam refused to release her, instead choosing to throw a punch with his free hand. Before the stuttering man could react, he cried out and crumpled to the ground. Adam's fury had been building, and witnessing Iris's actions only escalated his anger. At this point, he began to laugh. Iris recognized the ominous sign. She was familiar with Adam's temper. His laughter was an indication of his extreme rage. Despite the three men's dubious intentions, it pained her to witness them bearing the brunt of Adam's wrath. Adam, with a fierce determination, seized Iris and pulled her from the grimy alley, away from those menacing men. Iris kept yelling at him, "Let me go, you idiot! What are you doing?" Adam kept on going as he recalled exactly what had happened till now. After exiting the nightclub, he spotted Iris in the parking lot of that club. He was caught off guard by her presence and kept observing her from a distance. After a while, he saw three men tailing Iris. He instantly knew their sinister intentions and decided to follow her quietly to make sure she was safe. But when the stuttering man extended his grimy hand on her, he couldn't suppress his instincts and jumped in to rescue her. After having dealt with those men, he wanted to go home as soon as possible. He forcefully made Iris sit in his car, but as his luck would have it, Iris was being stubborn as hell, trying to open the car door from the other side to get away from him. Adam swiftly locked the door and had her confined to this space, just her and him. It had been a while since he had been so close to her, and he grew increasingly muddled, as if torn between fear and desire. Iris continued to struggle with the door, and Adam's mind felt like it was about to explode. He suddenly gave in to his impulse and lowered his head, kissing her fiercely. That caught Iris completely off guard. She was left stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief. The intense heat of Adam's breath against her face was scorching, like a searing iron, shaking her to her core. She began to struggle, summoning every ounce of her strength to resist him. "He's a devil. After what he's done, how dare he do this?" Iris thought as she seethed with anger and fought back in the car. Iris was overcome with terror. This was a fear more profound than death itself. Although she had sworn never to show vulnerability in front of Adam, she couldn't help it now, and her tears flowed like an unleashed river. Adam was suddenly brought to reality by Iris's constant struggle. He felt a moment of panic. He stepped away from her, his lips parting as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent and quietly unlocked the car. Upon hearing the faint ticking, Iris trembled slightly. Swift as lightning, she slapped the man's face, flung open the car door, and made a quick escape. The rapid succession of actions left Adam in a state of shock. He covered his face, helplessly watching Iris's hasty departure. The car door slammed shut, jolting Adam. His vacant eyes darkened. Adam reached for a cigarette, lighting it with a lighter, but didn't take a drag. He simply gazed intently at the flickering flame in the darkness, as if it held the secrets of the universe. He then started the car and chased after her. As expected, Iris hadn't gone far. She was looking around her as if waiting for a cab, but the late hour offered few options. He switched on the headlights, and the brilliant beams of light flooded over Iris, momentarily blinding her. Instinctively, she shielded her eyes with her hands. When she realized it was Adam, she turned and fled the scene. There was no way two legs could outrun the car. Adam parked the vehicle in front of her, flung open the door, and stepped out. As soon as Iris spotted him, she turned and fled once more. But Adam, with his long, powerful strides, quickly closed the gap and roughly carried her back into the car. Trembling with fear, Iris stammered, "Adam, what are you going to do?" Adam paid no attention to her, and it was clear that he was in a foul mood. Iris had no idea where he was taking her, but she had already experienced his strength, and her fear deepened even further. Iris couldn't allow that to happen, so she lunged forward, seizing the steering wheel. It happened so abruptly that Adam didn't react in time. Iris yanked the wheel hard, and the car collided with a massive tree by the side of the road. Adam was jolted by the collision and quickly slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The car struck head-on. He hastily unbuckled his seatbelt and shielded Iris with his body. Thankfully, the car came to a halt and the impact wasn't severe enough to deploy the airbag. Adam's impulsive move left him colliding with the car's front panel, and his waist was jarred by the gear shift. The pain contorted his face, and he struggled to move for a while. Iris turned to open the door and escape, but Adam's grip on her wrist was firm. "What do you want?" Despite knowing that he must have been injured, Iris growled angrily. Adam slowly moved back to his seat and spoke calmly. "I'll take you for a late-night snack." Iris cursed. "You're insane. I have no intention of having a meal with you. Move your hand and let me go." Adam observed her in silence for a moment, then suddenly smiled. His grip on her wrist tightened like an iron vice, causing Iris to furrow her brow. Adam said to her, "Those men are gone now, so you can only have a meal with me." Iris sensed that something was off with Adam tonight. She shot a cold look at his face and said, "Adam, are you unwell? Why on earth would we have a late-night snack together? You can't even stand me, can you? If something's wrong with your head, I suggest you see a doctor tonight."
Let me go, and it's best if we never cross each other's paths again. Even if we happen to encounter each other by chance, please pretend you don't know me, so we don't have to worry about any unpleasant incidents on the road ahead.
Adam remained silent and didn't release his grip. His hand felt hot, while Iris's was cold, like winter and summer, eternally incompatible. Even in their current embrace, the heat didn't wane and the cold didn't thaw. Seeing that he still held on, Iris abruptly raised her hand and sank her teeth into the back of Adam's hand. Her fierceness surfaced as her sharp teeth sank deeply into his flesh. Adam endured the intense pain, feeling Iris's teeth pierce his flesh, but he made no move to stop her. In fact, he almost wished those sharp teeth could reach his heart. It would be a relief, a painless end to it all. The pain became a distant numbness for him. In contrast, Iris began to panic. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth as her teeth had already broken the skin, but Adam remained as motionless as a statue. Her initial panic eventually subsided, and she slowly lifted her head. The bite marks on the back of Adam's hand were etched deeply, as if carved into his skin, painfully clear. The skin had been punctured, and a hint of deep red seeped out. Gradually, the bite marks swelled, the skin and flesh torn, a truly unsettling sight. However, Adam's hand remained on Iris's wrist, and his firm grip had blocked the blood flow, causing her wrist to ache and tingle. "You will leave a mark on me," Iris spoke with a softer tone. Adam's behavior had been exceptionally strange that night. When he gazed at her, his eyes held a peculiar quality, as if she were a stranger. Iris's initial anger had faded in this moment, and she found an unexpected sense of calm. She was afraid of being drawn back into that abyss of darkness, where there was no light. Again, she said, "You will leave a mark on me." Her tone was gentle, as if she had no choice but to mention it. Adam stared at her and finally released his grip. A bright red mark appeared on her pale wrist. Iris observed this indifferently. She had bitten Adam's hand, and he had left his fingerprints on her wrist. Adam shook his hand and examined the bite marks as if he was contemplating whether to get a rabies shot. Iris suddenly blinked and shot him an indignant look. Was he mocking her by making it look like he'd been bitten by a dog? But then he actually picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Doctor, it's me. I got bitten. Do I need some kind of shot?" The person on the other end of the line might have asked what had bitten him. Adam replied, "Yes, the skin broke and there was some blood. I'll come right over." After ending the call, he noticed Iris still sitting there with a peculiar expression.
Aren't you going to leave? He inquired.
"Are you going to get a shot?" Iris asked.
Adam nodded.
"Yes, the doctor said it's better to get a shot just to be safe."
Iris nodded as well.
"You should hurry then." As she spoke, she opened the car door and stepped out. The moment the car door closed, the vehicle roared to life and drove away. Iris stood on the street, silently sneering at the departing car. Iris had rarely emerged victorious in her encounters with Adam. Managing to bite him this time felt like a small triumph, and it put her in a rather good mood when she arrived home. Upon entering, she spotted Finn seated in the living room. His presence at such a late hour clearly meant he was waiting for her. He had likely been waiting for a while. Slumped on the sofa, his hands were folded over his chest and his head was lowered. He appeared somewhat distant. Iris couldn't discern whether he was asleep or awake. Iris stood there for a moment, then proceeded to make her way quietly towards the staircase that rested against the wall. Just as she reached the bottom of the stairs, Finn abruptly raised his head. Iris knew there was no escaping this conversation, so she forced a smile and said, "Brother, why are you still up? Come here, we need to talk." His voice carried a deep tone and an unkind demeanor. Iris hesitated and replied, "If you have something to discuss, can we do it tomorrow? It's very late and I want to sleep." Finn's anger flared at her nonchalant attitude. Fearing he might wake their parents upstairs, he lowered his tone and said,
"You know it's way too late."
"Where the hell were you?" Iris approached him cautiously, keeping a bit of distance to avoid him smelling the alcohol on her breath. She leaned against the back of the sofa and replied, "I wasn't doing much, just taking a walk." Finn grumbled, "Taking a walk at this hour? Where could you possibly go for a stroll now?" Iris hesitated for a moment. She couldn't mention anything about Adam. If Finn found out what had transpired between her and Adam tonight, he would likely rush to confront him. She was concerned that Finn might not fare well against him. She took a deep breath and said, "I was mugged." Finn was taken aback when he heard Iris say that she was mugged. He stood up in shock, moving closer to her and said, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Iris assured him. "I managed to outrun them. They chased me for a while. Eventually, I realized they just wanted money, so I gave them all my money, and then I came back." "They let you go after taking your money?" Finn found it hard to believe. Iris was strikingly beautiful. When she encountered a group of thugs at night, could it really have been as simple as a robbery for money? "I was worried they wouldn't keep their word, so I threw the money on the ground and made a run for it while they were busy collecting it," Iris explained. She pulled out her wallet and opened it to show Finn. "I gave them all the money I had left." Finn didn't say a word. He just regarded her with suspicion. "I am telling you the truth, Finn." Iris explained the entire event to him. "They're all short, grimy-looking men, and one of them even had a stutter. They didn't seem dangerous. They were just interested in the money." Finn continued to observe her silently and finally said, "As long as you're safe." "Brother, don't worry. I'm perfectly fine," Iris replied with a smile. "This city is known for its good public safety. Tonight was just an unfortunate incident, nothing major. You should start taking the driver with you when you go out from now on." Finn sighed in resignation. "If you can't resist the urge to drink, just have the driver escort you around." Finn. Iris believed she'd hidden herself well. Yet, Finn still detected the lingering scent of alcohol on her. "Iris, you seem so tense. Finn comforted her by patting her shoulder and said, "Forget the past. Since you've come back to start anew, focus on the future and everything will work out." Iris nodded and whispered, "I understand. I've done my best to put the past behind me." Finn then inquired, "How's Roman doing with his company?" Iris responded, "It's not that bad, but Daisy left him." Finn was surprised at that and said, "But will her leaving him be enough? Roman will surely search for her." "No, he will not do anything like that this time around," Iris stated firmly. "Daisy has agreed to follow my plan. This time they won't be able to get back together." "That's good," Finn said. "Actually, that girl is quite nice, and maybe we should offer her some compensation." "I think we can do that," Iris thought for a moment and continued. "Finn, as soon as Roman agrees to marry, you must keep your promise and help him turn his life around." Finn promised her. "As soon as he agrees to marry you, I'll transfer the shares I hold to him as a wedding gift." Iris asked hesitantly, "Can we collaborate with the Spencer family to deal with the Millers?" Finn raised an eyebrow, a cold glint in his eyes, and his expression turned serious. "Are you still thinking about revenge?" "Let me be clear. No one can shake the foundation of the Millers, not even if you and Roman get married in the future. Don't attempt to involve Roman in dealing with Adam. It's a dangerous path." Iris raised her hands in surrender and said, "I'm just talking. Why are you being so serious? Besides, Roman won't listen to me anyway."
"All right, no more nonsense. Go upstairs and get some rest."
Finn yawned as he led Iris upstairs. Busy days always seemed to pass quickly. It had been over 2 weeks since Roman's return from the UK. The standoff with the Millers persisted. While they hadn't suffered a defeat, their funds were tied up, making it impossible to turn the tide. Some of their ongoing projects had financial constraints. John entered Roman's office and slammed a stack of orders on the table. "Look at these. They all require funds. I've discussed this with them, but they won't budge. These troublemakers are just trying to stir up problems." He lit a cigarette, exhaled irritably, and then took a seat. Roman picked up the stack of orders and examined them closely, not as agitated as John. When he reached the last one, he neatly organized the lists on the table, set them aside, and said, "I've reviewed them. Paying in full isn't feasible.
Let's offer 30% and see if they'll accept it or nothing at all." John flicked the cigarette ashes and asked, "Any updates from the UK? Are they getting on board?"
Roman said,
"They're quite shrewd and never jump into an uncertain battle."
John sighed. "So are we just going to sit and wait like this?"
Roman replied, "We can't rush it. Furthermore, Miller Corp has filed a breach of contract lawsuit against us, and the court has officially accepted it. The summons will arrive in a few days. The government will surely step in and won't halt the ecological park project. The Millers will have to front the funds. By that point, Adam won't have enough ammunition." Time. It all comes down to time, but it's this waiting period that's causing me anxiety. Without funds, several projects will have to be put on hold, and the staff are getting restless. People are circulating rumors that Spencer's is in trouble. Roman contemplated for a moment and then announced, "Starting this month, the senior management will take a salary cut. Those who aren't willing to cooperate can leave. Those who choose to stay and support the company through these tough times will receive a substantial year-end bonus if the company performs well." John nodded and said, "I think this plan will work. I'll instruct HR to send out the notice later." He observed Roman closely and then inquired, "How long has it been since you last saw Daisy?" Roman's expression remained unchanged as he replied, "It's been 2 days and a month. What's on your mind?" John chuckled. "I used to think you couldn't survive a day without Daisy, but it seems you're doing quite well. Can you really handle it?" "There's no other way. Even for Daisy, we need to stabilize the company first. Otherwise, how can the board of directors and my parents forgive her? The Andersons wanted to use her, thinking that I can't stand on my own without their support." Roman scoffed. I want to show them that I can stand strong without relying on that family."
Seeing Roman's disinterest in further discussion, John wisely picked up the stack of lists and departed, sensing that the mention of Daisy had stirred Roman's emotions. Roman reclined in his chair, massaged his temples, and released a weary sigh. How could he not miss her? His days were manageable, always filled with endless tasks to keep his mind occupied, but at night his thoughts clung to her like a persistent shadow. Her presence seemed to linger in every corner of the house, her smiles etched in his memory. There seemed to be no alternative but to have a punching bag installed in the side hall on the second floor. When the yearning for her became overwhelming, he'd pummel the sandbag until he was drained, soaked in sweat, and then take a shower, collapsing onto his bed, hoping to sleep until the break of day. It wasn't like this every night. Occasionally, he'd wake up in the middle of the night and instinctively reach for the edge of the bed, but it was empty. Then a sudden realization would wash over him and he'd cradle her pillow in his arms. Her scent lingered on the pillow, a faint, grassy fragrance. He'd inhale it and slowly drift back to sleep. He knew where she was and that she would be back soon. Although she had mentioned that he could come to her, he restrained himself from seeing her. He was afraid. He was afraid that if they met, he would take her back by force and tell her how much he missed her. But Roman knew it wouldn't work. He understood it wouldn't work. If he did that, all his efforts would be in vain. He could only try to control himself, save time, and attempt every means to end this battle quickly, so he could see her soon and have her return willingly. He powered on his phone, hoping for a message, but there was none. He clicked the screen repeatedly, but still no message appeared, leaving him feeling adrift and empty. In the initial days of Daisy moving out of the house, she used to send Roman a lot of text messages, telling him about her life, her new culinary skills, and the dishes she'd learned. She even mentioned cooking them for him in the future. Roman never replied, though. Not even a single word. He thought that there was no need to reply and that she should know how much he missed her in his life. During his stay in the UK, her messages gradually ceased. He was busy with negotiations and brushed them off for a while, but it wasn't that he didn't care. Roman felt deeply anxious when he didn't hear from her. After returning back to the country, Roman one day impulsively drove to the neighborhood where she lived, stopping at the intersection several times, sitting in the car, pulling his hair in frustration, yet ultimately restraining himself. He couldn't show his desperation in front of her. He wouldn't, not until the day he had won this battle. He scrolled through his phone book and landed on the first number, labeled Daisy. There was a cute photo of her. Whenever he thought of her, he'd open his phone and look at the picture in silence, a small comfort for his lovesick heart. Roman's fingers hovered over the number, his heart racing, an indescribable emotion washing over him. Then, with determination, he pressed the button and called her. The phone rang for what felt like an eternity, each ring brimming with hope as if she would answer at any moment. But after only 3 rings, he abruptly ended the call. He couldn't explain why, but he was still scared, an inexplicable fear gripping him. His palms grew sweaty and sticky, and finally he put down the phone. Daisy stared at her phone, unblinking. It had only rung 3 times before stopping. Did he dial her number by mistake? Or was he actually trying to call her? She had told him he could come to meet her, but Roman hadn't shown any interest in it. His absence didn't imply he didn't miss her. It must be the overwhelming demands of the company keeping him tied up. But he hadn't responded to the message she sent, so maybe he hadn't paid attention. He still had her on his mind, and that's why he had accidentally called her number. After all this time apart, this was the only thing he did. 3 rings, and that was it. Daisy's heart was in turmoil, and she couldn't think clearly. All she knew was that even if the phone kept ringing, she wouldn't answer it. She had made this decision through painful experiences. There was no turning back, and she had no regrets. Roman, who had been like a deity in her heart, would forever remain high and noble. Even if it meant descending into the deepest abyss or enduring unimaginable torment, she wouldn't regret it. In this life, she had gotten more than she could have ever hoped for, and no one could be happier than her. Even if it meant sacrificing herself for him, she would do it with a heart full of joy. While Daisy was lost in her thoughts about Roman, Kevin came over and waved his hand in front of her eyes, saying, "Hey, wake up. Where are you lost? You've been staring at your screen." Daisy stowed her phone away in embarrassment and replied irritably, "Why are you still at home? Aren't you supposed to be at work? Am I disturbing you at home?" Kevin shot her an annoyed glance. "Daisy, you can't keep doing this. I bet that as soon as Roman comes looking for you, you'll go with him for sure." "No, I've made up my mind this time. Besides," she crossed her arms over her belly, "I've almost got a plan in place." "Don't mention that crazy plan of yours." Kevin's anger flared up as he brought up the topic. "It's a miracle you didn't give me a heart attack. You sneaked into my room in the middle of the night. At least you could have warned me beforehand." Daisy blushed and retorted, "I told you not to bring it up, but you still did." "Fine, I won't mention it anymore," Kevin said in a gentler tone. "When do you plan to go find Roman?" "I think it's better to go sooner rather than later." Daisy countered his advice, saying, "Iris said it's safer to wait a little longer." Kevin responded with frustration, "Why do you listen to that woman for everything? She's not a good person. She even schemed against you." Daisy spoke softly. "I know I've wronged you, Kevin, but I truly have no other option. No one can help me with this except you." Kevin sighed. "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. I'm leaving for work. You should cook for yourself and stop eating instant noodles. There's plenty of other food." Daisy nodded and walked to the door to see him off. As she watched Kevin hurry downstairs, she closed the door, leaned against it, and closed her eyes. It was a while before moved away, and a single hot tear rolled down her cheek. The green light on the sidewalk blazed to life as Iris navigated her way across the street. Suddenly, a car at the traffic light revved its gleaming white headlights to life, startling her. She instinctively shielded herself with her hand just as the engine roared to life, hurtling towards her. In a panic, Iris sprinted towards the other side, but the car raced forward, closing the gap in the blink of an eye. A dark silhouette rushed at her, wrapping her in its arms, and they tumbled in a whirlwind. As Iris's screams faded, the black car vanished without a trace, leaving her sprawled on the ground. Thankfully, she was unharmed, save for a few scratches on her hands, causing a sharp, stinging pain. Iris hurriedly sat up, her concern for her own safety momentarily forgotten, and gazed down at the man beneath her. She froze instantly when she recognized the familiar figure and wondered why it had to be him again. The words of gratitude remained trapped on her lips, unable to escape, as she simply stared at him. Adam furrowed his brows and spoke calmly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Iris replied. "If you're all right, then help me stand up," Adam said. Iris swiftly rose to her feet. As Adam began to stand up, he gasped and fell back, clutching at an apparent injury. Iris regarded him coolly and asked in a rough voice, "Are you okay?" Adam rolled up his trouser legs to inspect his twisted ankle and said, "It seems my foot is twisted. Where's your driver?" "Have him take you to the hospital," Iris suggested. "I don't need a driver," Adam replied. He retrieved his car key from his pocket and pressed it, causing the nearby black car to flash its lights. "My car is right there. Help me up and I'll make my way." Reluctantly, Iris reached down, grasped Adam's arm, and pulled him to his feet with force. As soon as he stood, he swiftly withdrew his arm as if disgusted. Iris rolled her eyes in annoyance. He had asked for her help, yet he was playing it cool and acting disgusted, which irked her. Adam limped toward the car, his right foot clearly injured. Iris followed him in silence. As she watched Adam open the car door, she couldn't help but express her concern. "Can you still drive like this? Please don't get into another accident." A faint, sarcastic smile played at the corner of Adam's lips as he replied, "I won't crash, so there is no need for you to be bothered." Iris retorted, "I'm not worried about you. I'm worried you might harm someone else. No one deserves to be a victim of your driving." Without further explanation, she took the car key from his hand and slid into the driver's seat. Sensing that he couldn't drive in his condition, Adam wordlessly limped around to the front passenger seat. Iris started the car, gently pressed the accelerator, and maneuvered it into the middle of the road. The atmosphere between them grew heavy, like thickening glue, making it hard to breathe. Iris finally broke the silence, her words dripping with resentment. "Don't think I'll be grateful just because you saved me. I'll only hate you in this lifetime." Adam's face remained as stoic as water, his gaze fixed ahead as he calmly replied, "It doesn't matter to me." Iris pressed further. "Honestly, did you feel regret when you found out it was me you saved?" "No, I'm not someone who refuses to help. Saving lives is an instinct, and I don't care who the person is," Adam responded. She couldn't deny his claim. He had saved her 3 times, but that didn't change her perspective. The pain she endured outweighed any favors he had done. She sneered, "Even if you save me 100 times, I still won't be grateful to you." Adam shifted his weight and stretched out, leaning on his left leg. "It doesn't matter. You're aware of my feelings toward you, and I don't expect any gratitude. If you hate me, why bother saving me?" Iris challenged. "I didn't know it was you," Adam replied. Iris retorted, "You can kill me again after saving me." Adam's voice remained deep and serious. "Even though I dislike you, I won't take your life." "You've already taken my life once," Iris said coldly, turning to look at him. "Don't you remember? Tonight could be a perfect opportunity for both of us to meet our end." Adam stayed silent, but suddenly reached for the steering wheel. The car made a graceful maneuver on the road, straightening its course. Iris glanced back and realized that she was about to hit the guardrail. Panicking, but refusing to yield, she taunted Adam, "What's the matter? Are you scared of death because I am not?" In a calm tone, Adam said, "You just want me to die. There's no need for you to be buried with me." Iris turned to look at him again, but this time Adam's shout brought her attention back to the road. Perhaps plagued by guilt, she didn't argue with him and focused on driving. The late-night hours were tranquil, and the streetlights cast a soft, soothing glow. Iris stared ahead, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Her furrowed brow and less cold gaze hinted at her contemplation. Suddenly, Adam asked, "Why do you always come home so late?" Iris hummed in confusion and asked, "What?" Her tone was strangely casual, as if chatting with a friend, which left Adam slightly taken aback. His voice remained uncharacteristically gentle as he repeated, "I asked you why you always come home so late." Iris shot him a quick glance and replied, "You don't need to concern yourself with that. I'm curious about why I keep running into you. You're not spying on me, are you?" Adam reclined lazily in his seat, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I only keep an eye on people who matter. And slow down, you're speeding." Iris complied by gently easing her foot off the accelerator. After a moment of silence, she ventured, "I heard you're having a feud with Roman?" Adam echoed her earlier statement. "You don't need to worry about that." "It's not my place to worry," Iris said indifferently. "But Roman is the one who wants to marry me. Don't you think it concerns me?" Adam chuckled sarcastically. "How could you possibly be concerned about that when he has publicly proposed to Daisy? Was it so traumatic for you that you erased it from your memory?" Iris raised her eyebrows confidently. "If you doubt my word, just wait and see it for yourself." Adam's once indifferent expression subtly changed, But before he could say anything, they arrived at the hospital. Iris parked the car in front, tossed the key to Adam, and went inside to find a nurse for his wound. It was just a minor injury, but it was best to have it checked. Sitting in the treatment room and watching the nurse skillfully tend to Adam, Iris couldn't help but find the situation ludicrous. For once, they had shared a car ride and conversed calmly. There was no hostility, shouting, or threats, a rare occurrence between them. A vague unease washed over Iris. The frequent nighttime encounters with Adam felt far from coincidental. Could it be that he had people monitoring her? Given his personality, it wasn't beyond the realm of possibility. Yet Adam was a man of immense wealth and power, showing little regard even for someone like Roman. Why would he fear her then? In a daze, she heard the faint cry of a baby. The sound was distant and hard to discern. That baby's cry sent her heart racing, her face growing pale and beads of sweat forming on her forehead. She rose unsteadily as if struck by an illness. Concerned, the nurse noticed her distressed appearance and inquired, "Miss, are you feeling unwell? Would you like a thorough examination?" Iris said nothing, merely pushing the nurse aside and hurrying out. Outside, another nurse intercepted her. "You were with the patient just now, right? Please settle the bill for the procedure." In her panic, Iris gazed at the nurse, but her words were lost on her. Anxious, she pulled the nurse aside and pleaded urgently, "Let me go, please." The nurse regarded her with a perplexed expression. Just then, another nurse came and suggested, "Miss, what's wrong? If you're unwell, we can assist you." "No, you can't help me. No one can help me." Iris suddenly grew hysterical, clawing at her hair. "Let me go. I can't stay here." The two nurses were startled by her behavior. One of them said, "You stay here with her. I'll go find the doctor." The other, a bit nervous, added, "Hurry. She seems to be deeply disturbed by something." The departing nurse rushed to get help, while the one who stayed behind attempted to console Iris. "Miss, please try to calm down. You can tell me what's troubling you and I'll do my best to help." Iris pounded her head vigorously as if in agonizing pain. Her piercing screams reverberated through the silent corridor, lending an eerie air to the surroundings. The nurse reached out to grasp Iris's hand, urging her, "Miss, please don't do this. If you are in some trouble, tell us. We're all here to help." Iris, overcome by madness, was surprisingly strong. She violently shook off the nurse's hand and collided with the wall. The nurse cried out, attempting to restrain her, but only managed to grasp her sleeve. A group of people hurried towards them with Adam, who had injured his foot, leading the way. The nurse slowed Iris down, guiding her into Adam's arms. Adam seized Iris and shook her vigorously. "Snap out of it! What's wrong with you? What happened?" Iris stared at him blankly, then suddenly grinned, pointing at him and saying in a distressed tone, "You murderer! Give me back my life!" Her menacing grin and sharp nails clawing at Adam's face sent a shiver down his spine. The people nearby acted swiftly, and a doctor called out, "Quick, get her inside and administer a sedative." Several nurses forcibly led Iris into a treatment room. Adam stood there, utterly bewildered, wondering what happened to her. Daisy sat by the window, her heart heavy with longing. The absence of Roman had left a void in her life. She missed his laughter, his warm smile, and the way he made her feel special. Kevin, however, couldn't ignore the sadness in her eyes any longer. He went up to her and said, "Daisy, I've seen you moping around for days now. It's clear you miss Roman. Why don't you reach out to him?" Daisy looked at Kevin, her eyes filled with a mixture of emotions, and nodded. The idea of hearing Roman's voice again was like a lifeline, pulling her from the depths of her despair. Daisy sighed and looked down at her hands, fingers tracing the edge of her phone. She finally spoke, her voice wavering with determination. "Kevin, I want to call Roman, I really do, but he's fighting so hard to win his company back, and I don't want to distract him or put any more pressure on him. I'll call him once he's succeeded, and maybe then I'll not feel remorse for destroying his life and career. Then we can be together, maybe." Kevin understood the depth of her feelings and nodded, his support unwavering. He said, "I get it, Daisy. Just remember, he cares about you too. When the time's right, he'll be waiting for your call." Daisy smiled through her tears, grateful for Kevin's understanding and encouragement. Meanwhile, away from Daisy, Roman paced the room, his mind immersed in the intricate details of the battle for control. The company's shares, the linchpin of the entire operation, were ready to be brought into play. John handed Roman a folder containing crucial documents. He said, "Roman, the shares are in your name, and we've secured the support of the key stakeholders. It's all in here, the power to take control of the company." Roman took the folder, his fingers trembling with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. As he flipped through the documents, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. It was time to make his move, to seize back what had been wrongfully taken from him. Victoria and George, on the other hand, sat in their home as their concern for Roman's predicament weighed heavily on their minds. George said, "Victoria, I can't believe what's happening to Roman and his company. He's been through so much." Victoria nodded, her elegant features etched with worry. "I know, George. Roman's worked tirelessly to build that company. It's heartbreaking to see it slipping away." George sighed and said, "We have to find a way to help him. Even though we are angry at his actions, losing the company would devastate him." Victoria and George shared a somber moment, their thoughts consumed by their deep-rooted concern for Roman's future. Roman sat at his desk, the room bathed in the dim light of his office, strategizing his final move against Adam. John, his trusted confidant, was by his side, discussing the intricacies of their plan. Roman said with a finality in his tone, "John, this is it. The last attack to regain my company. We've got to be meticulous and leave no room for error." John nodded, a steely determination in his eyes, saying, "You've got the shares, the support of the stakeholders, and we've covered all angles. We're ready." As they finalized their plan, John left the room, leaving Roman alone with his thoughts. With the weight of his impending battle slowly lifting, Roman's mind wandered to another matter close to his heart. Roman thought, "Once I secure the company, I'm going to propose to Daisy again. And soon there will be a marriage, so there isn't time for any other evil to step between us. It's time we build our future together." A smile touched his lips as he envisioned a life beyond the boardroom, one filled with love and happiness. John was just about to leave the office, looking forward to a peaceful evening at home, when his phone rang. It was Nina, and her voice sounded shaky. He heard her say as soon as he picked up, "John, my water just broke and I think I'm going into labor. I need you to come home right now." Panic surged through John as he realized the urgency of the situation. He quickly grabbed his things, his heart racing, and reassured Nina, "I'm on my way, Nina. Just hold on. I'll be there in no time." He rushed out of the office, leaving everything behind, and drove like a madman to get home. The impending arrival of their baby had turned his peaceful evening into a frantic race to the hospital. John arrived home, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He found Nina waiting at the door, her face etched with both pain and anticipation. Nina jumped at him as soon as she saw him and said, "John, I can't believe it's time. I'm in so much pain." John rushed to her side, gently supporting her as they made their way to the car. Carefully, he helped Nina into the passenger seat, ensuring she was as comfortable as possible. The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity, with every bump in the road amplifying Nina's discomfort. John did his best to stay calm and focused, reassuring his wife every step of the way. They arrived at the hospital, and John rushed to get Nina a wheelchair. He wheeled her through the bustling corridors, finally arriving at the labor room. Nina was in agony, gripping John's hand tightly as she said, "I can't do this, John. It's too much." John looked into Nina's eyes with unwavering support, his voice filled with determination. "Yes, you can, Nina. You're strong and we're in this together. Our baby is almost here." The medical team quickly got to work, and John stood by Nina's side, holding her hand and providing comfort as she endured the intense contractions. The room was filled with a mix of tension, anticipation, and love. Hours passed, and finally the moment arrived. With one last push and a surge of emotion, their daughter entered the world, her cries filling the room. John couldn't hold back tears of joy as he gazed at their precious child and said, "She's here, Nina, our beautiful daughter." Nina's exhaustion was replaced with overwhelming happiness as she held their newborn, tears of relief and joy streaming down her cheeks. She said, "We did it, John. She's perfect." As John and Nina basked in the joy of their newborn daughter, the nurse gently placed the baby in Nina's arms. The room was filled with an overwhelming sense of love and happiness. The nurse chimed in, offering a warm smile. "Congratulations, both of you. It's a special moment." Nina looked at John with a smile, her exhaustion giving way to pure elation, and said, "We need a name for her. Any ideas?" John thought for a moment, his eyes filled with adoration for his wife and child, and said, "How about Lily? It's a name that feels as delicate and beautiful as our daughter." Nina nodded in agreement, tears of happiness still glistening in her eyes. "Lily, it is." They shared a tender moment as a family, the world fading away as they marveled at the miracle of their daughter's birth. It was a moment they would cherish forever, a new chapter in their lives filled with love and hope. In a dimly lit room in the hospital amidst the beeping machine, Adam stood by Iris's bedside, her frail form a painful reminder of the consequences of his actions. He couldn't help but feel a profound sense of guilt and sorrow as he watched her struggle as he said, "Iris, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to happen to you." Iris, unable to respond, weakly reached out and held his hand, her eyes conveying a mix of understanding and forgiveness. It only intensified the weight of his remorse. Adam's life outside the hospital had crumbled too. The next day, the tension in the office was palpable as Tony and Adam came face to face. Their once strong friendship had been strained to its breaking point. Tony said, "Adam, I've had time to think, and I can't be a part of this anymore. Destroying Roman is not the path I want to follow." Adam, feeling a profound sense of loss, tried to salvage their friendship, saying, "Tony, I understand your concerns, but you have to see the bigger picture. This is about more than just Roman. It's about the success of our company." Tony shook his head, his voice filled with sadness and disappointment. "Success at the cost of everything we once held dear?" "I can't do it, Adam. I'm resigning as the general manager." Adam's shoulders slumped and he watched as Tony walked away, leaving their office filled with a sense of desolation. The consequences of his actions had left him feeling lonelier than ever, a heavy burden of regret weighing on his heart. Adam paced his office, his mind a whirlwind of turmoil and regret. His pursuit of power had led him down a dark path, causing him to lose friends and loved ones. The choices he had made had left him with an emptiness that no amount of success could fill. Meanwhile, Iris lay in her hospital bed, her face etched with pain and sorrow. She, too, was tormented by her past decisions, which had led her to this moment of suffering. The regrets weighed heavily on her, leaving her with an overwhelming sense of emptiness. Both Adam and Iris, despite their differences, were similar in their struggles and poor choices. They were trapped in a cycle of sorrow and regret, unable to escape the consequences of their actions. Iris's eyes were empty, lost in a sea of thoughts that she couldn't escape. The demons in her head seemed relentless, tormenting her with guilt and despair. The past mistakes and regrets haunted her, replaying like a never-ending loop in her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had caused so much pain to those around her, especially Adam. The weight of it all was suffocating. Iris's chest felt heavy, and tears welled up in her eyes as she struggled to find a way out of the darkness that seemed to consume her. It was a battle within herself, one that she was losing, and the room echoed with her silent cries for solace. Daisy stood in her art studio, surrounded by her beautiful paintings. Each canvas told a story, and she cherished them, but a newfound determination had taken hold of her heart. She knew what she needed to do for Roman and his company. She picked up her phone and called Arthur, her trusted art dealer and friend. The phone rang a few times before Arthur's familiar voice answered. "Daisy, how can I help you today?" Daisy took a deep breath and began. "Arthur, I've been thinking a lot, and I've decided to sell all my paintings and donate the income to Roman's community project." Arthur, surprised by her declaration, responded, "Daisy, that's an incredible gesture, but why such a sudden decision? Your art is priceless." Daisy smiled, thinking about the journey that had brought her to this point. "Arthur, I've been painting for months, and I've accumulated quite a collection, especially during the time I was living with Kevin. I sold a few at the exhibition and made good money. I just hope to make more this time. I realized that these paintings can make a real difference in the company. I want to support Roman's vision and his efforts to save Spencer's company." Arthur understood the depth of her feelings and said, "Your decision is admirable, Daisy. Let's work together to find the right buyers and get the best prices for your art. Your contribution will be a significant boost to Roman's cause." As they set their plan in motion, Daisy couldn't help but reminisce about the moments she had spent painting, even during the challenging times with Kevin. She had poured her heart and soul into her art, and now it would serve a greater purpose. As soon as they were put on sale, Daisy's paintings began to find their way into the hands of art enthusiasts and collectors. Each sale brought her closer to her goal of contributing to Roman's community project. The response from buyers was overwhelming, and the prices her paintings fetched surpassed her expectations. The next evening, as Daisy and Arthur sat together to review the sales, they couldn't believe the total income generated from her art. It was a substantial amount, far more than they had anticipated. Daisy's eyes sparkled with gratitude and excitement as she said, "Arthur, I never imagined my art would raise this much. I'm thrilled that we can make such a meaningful contribution to Roman's fund." Arthur smiled warmly. "Your talent and the generosity of the buyers have made this possible, Daisy. Roman will be incredibly grateful for your support." Daisy told him, "Please make it an anonymous contribution to the company and don't mention this to anyone. Roman will come to know about this when the time is right." Arthur just smiled and patted her. With the funds raised from the sale of her paintings, Daisy made a significant contribution to Roman's fund for saving Spencer's company. It was a pivotal moment in their journey, reinforcing her love for Roman and her commitment to making a difference in the lives of those who needed it most. Among the many strategic moves to save the company, Roman and John have also decided to start the fundraiser. They believed that if the Spencers were making a difference, their employees and their allies would try to save them. And they had been right. Roman stood in the heart of his company, surrounded by the whispers of success and ambition. For years, he had battled against Adam, his rival, who was determined to destroy Roman's empire. Today was different. Roman had managed to save his company through sheer determination and a brilliant business move. He had a secret ace up his sleeve, and he was about to confront Adam. Adam had called Roman last night as soon as he left the hospital. He was so remorseful about Iris that he didn't know what emotion to feel, so he called Roman and lashed out at him about his failing company. He had taunted him and mocked him. He had thought that this last shred of victory would make him feel better about himself. But he was wrong. As soon as he hung up, he felt hollow. The one move he had worked at for so long, destroying Roman, The one thing that he thought would finally make him content and satisfy all his lifelong grudges made him feel nothing but emptiness. What was the motive of his life anymore, Adam thought. Now that there was no Roman to fight with and no Iris to desire, where should he go? Had he placed all his life's value in such hollow things? He called Roman once more and asked him to meet him for one last time, and Roman agreed. Adam wanted to see Roman one last time as the great Spencer CEO before he came crashing down. Little did he know that Spencer had his employees transferring money upon money to the company's fund, not just the employees. Numerous conglomerates have returned the debts they owed to Spencer. Overnight, there was more than double the amount needed to save the company, and there was no bringing down Roman Spencer anytime soon. But Adam didn't know that and continued believing himself to be the victor. The next day, as Adam entered the sleek boardroom, Roman's eyes met Adam's cold, calculating gaze. The tension in the room was palpable. Roman's voice was unwavering. "You thought you could bring me down, Adam, but my company is stronger than ever." Adam's face contorted with anger. "How? You have no money. You are broke." John, who was standing next to Roman, replied to Adam, "Right now, our company has more than enough to buy yours." Roman continued, "I knew your plan, Adam, and I took measures to protect my company. You see, loyalty and innovation will always triumph over deceit." Adam, feeling the weight of his impending failure, growled, "What did you do, Roman?" Roman leaned in a sly smile on his face. "I formed alliances, Adam. True partnerships that believe in our vision and values. My employees are my family, and they stood by me." John couldn't help but be proud of Roman's strength. He knew his determination had saved not only his company, but their future. John taunted, "And we've got innovative strategies that will leave your outdated tactics in the dust, Adam." Adam realized his downfall and clenched his fists. "You may have won this round, Roman, but the battle is far from over." Roman stood tall, his voice filled with conviction. "I'm not just fighting for my company, I'm fighting for the love I have for Daisy. I won't let anything come between us." The confrontation ended, and Adam walked away with seething anger. As soon as he walked out, all his anger melted into remorse. He felt the same emptiness from the night before. He didn't feel anything about Roman being able to save his company or Roman winning again. He just felt the lack of love and purpose in his own life. Suddenly, the city that he once loved started to feel like a burden. He just wanted to leave this city. That felt the only way he could rid himself of the sins of his past self and start new. With so many emotions bubbling inside him, Adam accelerated his car to his house. In the hospital room, Iris lay in her bed, her face a mix of pain and guilt. She had been obsessed with Roman for so long, and she had gone to great lengths to try and come between him and Daisy. The consequences of her actions were finally catching up with her. As the monitor beeped softly beside her, Iris reached for her phone. With trembling fingers, she dialed her family's number. Her voice was weak when her mother answered. "Mom, it's me," Iris whispered, her eyes welling up with tears. "I need you to come to the hospital. I can't stay here anymore." Polly, concerned, asked, "What's wrong, dear? Are you okay? Why are you in the hospital?" Iris hesitated, then admitted, "I've done something terrible, Mom. I tried to blackmail Roman with the photographs I had clicked by deception. I thought I could have him for myself, but it's all falling apart." With a sob, she continued, "Things got rough with Adam, but it is all because of me. I was so obsessed with Roman, I didn't know what was happening around anymore." Her mother's voice was filled with compassion. "Iris, you made a mistake, but it's not too late to make amends. We'll be there soon." Tears streamed down Iris's face as she confessed, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I was so blinded by my feelings for him. I want to leave this city, start fresh, and never let my obsession hurt anyone again. Polly reassured her. We'll support you, Iris. We'll get you out of there, and you can make things right. As Iris hung up the phone, she couldn't shake the guilt that had consumed her for so long. She knew she had a long road ahead, mending her relationships and finding forgiveness, but she was ready to leave her obsession behind and seek a chance at redemption. Polly had sensed the remorse in Iris's voice, and as much as she wanted her to get married to Roman, there was nothing above her daughter. She would take Iris wherever she wanted to go and support her daughter in all her aspirations. She called Finn immediately. Finn, take me to the city hospital. We will leave Salt Lake this week. And before Finn could answer anything, Polly hung up. Roman, a symbol of unwavering determination, found himself at the threshold of a battle that would define his life's purpose. The company's boardroom, a hallowed space steeped in the echoes of time, bore witness to this pivotal moment. Its walls adorned with portraits of the patriarchs and matriarchs who had steered the company through decades, exuded a sense of history intertwined with the present. The rich mahogany surroundings resonated with the weight of corporate legacies, and the tension in the room was palpable, reminiscent of the historic meetings that had charted the company's path. The votes, meticulously counted with an attention to detail, reminiscent of the company's founding values, carried the weight of the company's destiny. This was a moment that mirrored the history of corporate decision-making, the culmination of Roman's journey from an uncertain heir to a visionary leader. The anticipation that hung in the room was akin to the excitement that had rippled through the company's history with each new venture. As the results were announced and Roman emerged victorious, his vision for the company was ratified by the board. It was a moment of personal triumph, but also an acknowledgement of the immense responsibility that now rested on Roman's capable shoulders. In the dimly lit boardroom, John, Roman, and Sarah exchanged triumphant glances. They had just won back the company that meant so much to them. The room was filled with the scent of victory and the sound of celebratory cheers from their team. John, with a proud smile, raised a glass of champagne. To new beginnings, he toasted, and the clinking of glasses echoed through the room. Roman, his face beaming, added, and to the hard work and dedication of every person who believed in us. Sarah, her eyes shining with gratitude, joined in. This victory wouldn't have been possible without each and every one of you. John turned to Roman, his voice filled with admiration. Roman, you never gave up and your leadership was outstanding. Thank you for believing in this company. Roman nodded, a touch of emotion in his voice. And John, your strategic mind and unwavering commitment inspired us all. We did it together. Their teamwork and unwavering determination had paid off, and the company was now back in their hands. They had overcome obstacles, faced challenges, and emerged stronger together. The feeling of success was palpable in the air. As they continued to celebrate, the three of them shared a moment of pure happiness and camaraderie, knowing that their shared vision had come to fruition. It was a moment they would remember forever, a testament to the power of unity and the strength of their partnership. With the company firmly under his control, Roman's attention turned to the love of his life, Daisy. Their love story was a testament to resilience, similar to the company's enduring legacy. Golden sunlight drenched Kevin's building front, creating an idyllic backdrop as Roman approached the door, his heart pounding with anticipation. In his trembling hand, he clutched a small velvet box, the precious contents within shimmering under the warm rays. Roman knocked on the door, and Daisy answered, her expression a blend of curiosity and surprise when she saw him there. Roman was breathless, his words brimming with excitement as he said, Daisy, I can hardly believe what's happened. I've managed to regain control of my company against all odds. Daisy's face lit up with amazement as she said, Roman, that's simply incredible news. I'm so happy for you. Roman extended his hand, tenderly taking Daisy's. and gracefully descended to one knee, his gaze unwaveringly locked onto her eyes. He said with a voice filled with earnestness, "But amidst all this joy, there's something even more important that I wish to ask you, Daisy. Will you do me the extraordinary honor of returning with me and becoming my wife?" Daisy's eyes shimmer with tears, her heart soaring with emotion as she said in a quivering voice, "Roman, I've longed for this moment more than anything in the world." With gentle precision, Roman opened the velvet box, revealing a breathtaking ring, and tenderly slipped it onto Daisy's finger. Roman said in a tone consumed with love, "Daisy, you're my universe. Let's go on this magnificent journey together as one." Daisy was overwhelmed with joy as she nodded her head and said, "Yes, Roman, 1,000 times yes. I want to be your wife." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the room. Roman and Daisy stood there with their fingers gently intertwined. Their love was like an unspoken promise, a connection that ran deeper than words. Roman turned to Daisy, his eyes filled with tenderness. "Daisy, every day with you feels like a dream." Daisy smiled, her heart fluttering. "You make me believe in magic, Roman." The world around them faded into the background as they leaned closer, their lips meeting in a soft, lingering kiss. It was a kiss filled with promise and the knowledge that they were meant to be together. As they pulled away, Daisy whispered, "I love you, Roman." His eyes locked onto hers, and he replied, "And I love you, Daisy, more than words can express." Their love was a force of nature, an unbreakable bond that nothing could sever. In the quiet of the evening, they found solace in each other's arms, knowing that their love would endure no matter what challenges lay ahead. In their tightly woven embrace, the weight of their shared dreams and commitment unfurls, with Roman's heartfelt proposal marking the commencement of a profoundly beautiful, shared future. Roman's parents, George and Victoria, who had once harbored doubts about Daisy, became central figures in the narrative. The evolution of their relationship with Daisy mirrored the company's history of adaptation and growth. Concerned about their son's choice, they had questioned the compatibility of Daisy with Roman's ambitious career. However, as time passed, they witnessed Daisy's unwavering support and strength, embracing her wholeheartedly and considering her their beloved daughter-in-law. This family arc symbolized the power of reconciliation and growth, much like the company's journey through the years. In the dimly lit cabin of the departing plane, Adam stared out of the window, his heart heavy with grief and regret. The city lights below were fading as the plane taxied down the runway, taking him away from a place that held the bittersweet memories of his past. As the engines roared to life, the realization of Iris's condition hit him like a tidal wave. Her smile, her laughter, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, all of it was gone, leaving an indelible void in his heart. He wished he could turn back time and be there for her when life had been tough, but it was too late. Tears welled up in his eyes as Adam whispered to himself, "I'm so sorry, Iris. I should have been there for you. I should have helped you when you needed it the most." The plane soared into the night sky, leaving behind the city and the memories of their time together. Adam's first love had been incomplete, and the weight of that truth hung heavily on him. He couldn't help but wonder how different things might have been if he had been more attentive and more supportive. In the solitude of the plane, he mourned not being able to win Iris, his heart aching with the knowledge that he could never make amends. The goodbye to the city was not just a farewell to a place, it was a farewell to a part of himself that he could never reclaim. John and Nina, unwavering pillars of support for Roman and Daisy, shared the joyous news of the arrival of their daughter. In a cozy hospital room, Nina held her newborn daughter, a tiny bundle of joy in her arms. She smiled at the little one, overwhelmed with love. Roman and Daisy stood by her side, their hearts full of happiness. "Roman, Daisy, I want you to meet our daughter," John said, his voice filled with emotion. Daisy, her face radiant, leaned closer to get a glimpse of the newborn. "She's beautiful, Nina." Roman nodded, his voice choked with happiness. "You both are parents now, Nina." "This is incredible." Nina looked down at her daughter, her heart brimming with affection. "I can't believe she's finally here. It's like a dream come true." The room was filled with a sense of warmth and the promise of new beginnings. Roman and Daisy reached out to touch the baby's tiny fingers, welcoming her into their circle of love and support. As they stood there, basking in the joy of this new life, they knew that the future held countless moments of happiness and shared experiences. Sarah and Tony, friends whose connection had deepened over the years, finally acknowledged the depth of their feelings for each other. Their love story was one of shared laughter, challenges, and support. Embarking on a heartwarming journey, their relationship was filled with affection and reflected their growth as characters. Their connection blossomed into a beautiful love story, adding layers to their character arcs and reflecting the historical theme of love amidst life's challenges. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the ancestral house, Roman and Daisy found themselves in a place rich in history and tradition. The house had borne witness to generations of love, laughter, and cherished memories, and now it was their turn to continue this legacy. Their history intertwined with the house, they added their own chapter to its storied past. Years from when Roman and Daisy fought the world for their love and emerged victorious, they were a happy family. It's a beautiful autumn evening, and in the lush garden, a son and a daughter were playing, their youthful laughter and innocence echoing through the air. Their love story was intertwined with the growth of their family, and the children represented a continuation of the family's legacy. An ancient oak tree, a sentinel for centuries, seemed to offer its silent blessings to the happy family below, symbolizing enduring strength and history. As stars emerged in the evening sky, Roman and Daisy embraced the legacy of their ancestors, building a future filled with love, dreams, and contentment. Their love story, marked by resilience and unwavering commitment, was a testament to the enduring power of love, reflecting the company's long history of overcoming challenges and achieving success. In their ancestral house, they had discovered not only their roots, but also the depth of their connection, adding another chapter to the house's history. That brings us to the happily ever after of Daisy and Roman's story and marks the end of the show, Billionaire's Beloved. We hope you've thoroughly enjoyed this series, and if so,